What's up, YouTube? It's me, ya boy. Don't use that intro very often, but hey, you know. Uh, this video, as I'm sure you can see from the title, is just I'm gonna be taking the shorts that I put out this year because it has been a full year since I started doing these, and I'm just gonna throw them up on a tier list because I figured a that'd be an easy excuse to recycle content, and b it would, be a nice little way to like visualize where I've put certain operators. It gives me a little bit of an excuse to talk about certain shorts, maybe like give my thoughts on maybe um, like if a short didn't land right or if, maybe some of my opinions have changed. Um, for the most part, I don't think they have, but, and also, I get to cringe through the first few shorts I put out that don't don't format super well, and there's a little part of me that's got that itch that's like kind of want to just go into them, re-edit them, uh, for the super early ones, fix the voiceover, make it sound a little bit better, more like my usual voice that I use when I'm, recording the shorts, just to be clear and enunciate and just a little bit lower ranged, just to be sure that uh I have a decent like sounding short to work with, I gotta make sure my voice comes across well. So I put on a bit of a deeper, more enunciated voice, right? Um, but yeah, this video is sort of like one of those you know, yearly update videos that people are doing around this time of year. That I figured, hey, I can turn this into that pretty much. And actually, more than anything, it's a great excuse for me to ramble. Because you guys, if you watch my streams or my Legends of Runeterra content, I love to ramble. So, you know, if that sounds like your cup of tea, and you want to see me eh, talk shit about my own shorts, or just put them on the tier list. It sounds like something you could just grab a drink and hang back to. Then I highly encourage you to sit down and enjoy. Um, and like and subscribe and all that. Just shill, shill, shill. Um, but yeah, as you can see, I have a tier list. I have all of my thumbnails, including the ones that don't have thumbnails. You go all the way down here, you can see like every single short. It's got a thumbnail, got a thumbnail, got a thumbnail, except for these last two, because YouTube just decided that they didn't like those anymore. Um, which I understand, because if you like go to like the actual like if I go I don't know which tab it is. I think it's probably this one. Nope, it's videos. But I was looking at it. You go here, none of them have the thumbnails showing, so it doesn't help. So I kind of understand why they took away the thumbnails, but at the same time, it's like, come on, YouTube. Like, look at this playlist. Look at all these nice organized thumbnails, and then you look at the last two, and it's just like, what is this? How is anyone ever supposed to click on my gravel short? Looking at this, like Vigna. Sure, that's a picture of Vigna. Sort of, it's a little off to the side, but I don't know. I much prefer when I actually have my actual thumbnails. Though Amiya's could probably use some work, but you know, that's that's the thumbnail designer in me going. um, but yeah, to start it off, we have Savage. Like I said,
Savage.
I'm. Ooh. the high-pitched voice. Basically, I start by saying that, like, hey, she's a reward, right? So, like, you would kind of expect them to put, like, some extra effort into the design, but I am still of the opinion that she doesn't, like, stand out that much. Now, I will say, after going through the 4 stars, the background on her E2 splash is actually, like, pretty good. It is pretty solid, but I also still think, like, you could put this in any game, right? Like, this is not Arknights specific, right? And that's kind of like what I was trying to get at is, like, if as a pre-order bonus, Savage is kind of like a character that should, like, sell someone on the game, right? Kind of like, hey, you get this character as a bonus for pre-ordering this game, like just right there, and it like just like really like sells you on the game. But she's just a bunny girl with a hammer, which yeah, like that's like I think that reigns true. Um, but I will say that it's probably not super fair to look at like this art compared to some of the others, especially with like as an upgrade to this. But yeah, it's like, regardless of how it works out, she's just a bunny girl in a black outfit, which yeah, you could find that anywhere. Um, but that being said, um, I think C minus is probably a little harsh. Just based on like some of my 4 stars. Um, so if I were to put her on the tier list now, I'd probably stick her in C. I think C minus is a little harsh, but I think she stands there pretty well. But yeah, no, like I'm still very much of the opinion that, like, as a pre-order character who's supposed to kind of like pull attention to the game, probably doesn't quite serve a purpose. However, now that she's no longer a pre-order bonus and just a bonus for playing the game, she probably serves that role a little bit better, and C minus is definitely too harsh. So next we have Amiya.
Amiya, or Amiya if you're particular about the official pronunciation,
which I am slowly becoming more particular about, as I'm sure you could tell by my pronunciation just there.
is the main character of Arknights. She's supposed to level up with you, be with you as you play through the game, and her character design reflects this rather well. Like Savage,
That's about all I really need to say, I think. You know, that sums up Amiya like perfectly right there. A plus. Just in terms of the main character who, you know, grows with you as a character and is, basically supposed to be your right hand man, woman, bunny. As that character, I just the way that she progresses, like, kind of with you, and as her art, like, progressively she gets kind of like more and more dynamic, more and more powerful. Uh, it's easily like the best design in the game, easily. Which, granted, it should be. She's the main character. Also, big cool jacket. So, you know, just gotta give it to them on that one. Amiya, top tier. I do probably want to remake this short. uh, Especially since I know how fast I can talk now, and still enunciate. So I'll have a little bit more time to fit the short in here. So then next we have 12F. This is when I actually started the voice. Okay, so I was still kind of getting the hang of it here, but at least I started.
is a starter character. which means that he sets precedence for the game and a player's expectations.
You can tell I was like starting to try to like
so his damage and range
enunciate a little better.
ideas it only gets better. We're to talk about his design though. Being a
But I
true
still was
character,
like
12F only has
shaky at it,
look at
and
than
I didn't have like
that said,
the range when I was like down in the voice. Like I was still kind of quite monotone and kind of still a little like in the middle of my range, so I couldn't really like, you know.
Lizard people are cool, man.
And I stand by that.
Design. Makes me hope in the future we get to see more Sabra, and that they don't have the same dimorphism that the Archosaurs do.
Update. They do. That's several comments on the video too, I think. Just a couple in there somewhere. But yeah. It's just like, this is a cool design. It's got nods to his lore. He's got like this like kind of chill attitude, and he's got a freaking lizard head. You know, like the one thing I could fault it for really is he's a starter, so this is the only art, and he's got, you know, like I say, there's like the random Arknights logo on his leg. And aside from this little fringe of blue on his collar, it might be a little hard to tell that he's like actually a Rhodes Island operator and not just some random dude in a jacket. Right? And those are like the only like things that you can really like fault this design for, but he's like up there. And with that said, I think A minus is also a little harsh for 12F. I think I would take 12F and I would move him up to A. I don't think he's A plus because, you know, he does still have those two big glaring issues. You know, just being that he could be any random dude. And the fact that it's just, you know, well, I mean, I guess I can't really fault him for only having the starter character art because he is a starter character. But, you know, in terms of showing off, or that's not really the words I'm looking for, but in terms of like, I guess, getting more across through the design. Because it's like, yeah, he's got a small wand, so you can tell he's a caster, but like, that's kind of all they get across, right? You don't get like what kind of caster, what kind of arts, you know, what he's like, you know, like, you know, he's just cool dude in a jacket with magic stick. It's just like, okay, well, I don't know. A part of that is like, you know, the starter characters do have to be like pretty simple in any like gacha game, right? It's like they have to be, because they're the basic characters, right? Like you want to entice people to want to like level up, to want to get better characters, to play with better resources, right? That's like part of the reason why power creep is a little bit of a thing in every gacha game, no matter what. Is just because, you know, in terms of like gameplay design, you want people to pull for the new units. You want to make the new units interesting. If you want to make the new units interesting, they either A, have to do something that no other unit has done so far before, you know, which is why they sometimes come up with new operator archetypes, right? Like, you know, when the game started, we didn't have mystic casters, we didn't have fortress defenders, we didn't have, I mean, we didn't even have arts protectors. You know, we didn't have more than just like core and splash casters. You know, like all sorts of that kind of thing. And there was like two types of guards. So, yeah, realistically, you know, you have to like either do that or make the newer characters or the pullable characters more interesting, more powerful, like have cooler art, have stronger abilities, right? Um, and that's just how it always is. Like you're not ever gonna change that. Also, something you may notice when I first started, I didn't upload them in 1080p because I was like, they're short. There's no reason to. Just upload them in 720p. Um, which looking back is probably a little bit silly. Because it's not like it added any render time or anything for me to go up to 1080p. Maybe like an extra like half a minute or something like that. But you know, like, oh well. Another reason why I want to probably start re-uploading these. Anyway, I'm rambling. We should move on. Um, next we have Duren,
Duren is the
who, yeah, I basically was like, hey, she's super boring because she's a starter character. I also hadn't worked out how to keep the character in the box yet. Um, that's an editing software thing. Uh, but but yeah, I was like, yeah, she's literally the only representative of her race for a very long time, until we get Myrtle, and Myrtle ends up being a better representation of her race, even though she named herself after her race. And she's here, and she just looks like she's some stupid 10-year-old kid looking to sign up to Hogwarts. She doesn't look like she's Arknights, right? So like, C is fitting. I can probably honestly move her down to C minus. The only like she doesn't even look that sleepy. Like she doesn't even have bags under her eyes. They're just kind of far apart. That's like, so like in terms of like narcolepsy or whatever else she has going on, it's like, you know, she doesn't have a whole lot going for her. So frankly, I think Duren probably could be moved down to C minus. Because there's just nothing about her design that actively comes through. You know, why does she have arts dodge? Where's the sleepiness? What sets this character in the Arknights universe? You can't even like you can barely tell she's got a little point of an ear sticking out right here, and like that's like the only feature that's like this isn't some Harry Potter wannabe, right? Um, so yeah, Duren's got a pretty weak design for Arknight standards, um, and I think that remains true. Um, next we have Rangers. As usual, underwhelming, but sets expectations, right? Um, and like that could be said for like most of the starter operators, right? Um, so I talk about like how like it's neat. He's a neat character. It's weird that his glove isn't an archery glove when he's an archer. I got some comments on that were like, uh, like some people who are like, yeah, I do archery, and like those gloves are like kind of nice, but honestly, sometimes like a regular glove could be more comfortable, which fair, I guess. Um, but I'm just thinking like in terms of design, it's still maybe a little bit more straightforward to just go with the archery glove. But also just you know, either way, it's a glove that like his arm spikes are literally like tearing through it. Like you'd think they'd like do something about that, right? Uh, like get a glove that works for him. um, but yeah, and then like he's barefoot because apparently he has earth sense, which is like stupid broken. Why is this character 2 stars? Like just because he like doesn't have like a way to put arts into his bow or something. Like, bro, just like upgrade this man, please, because he's just like, bro, lizard people are cool. I would still love to see more like male Savra or I am suddenly Archosaurus. That's the one. I blanked on that for a second. But yeah, like I want to see more of them, like recruitable. Like I think like one of those, like as a cool like badass dude, that would be sick. Um, just like, cause just imagine that. Just imagine like uh a an actual like duelist guard or maybe even a defender. It's just a big crocodile. And like one of his like abilities could just be like that he like puts down his shield or his sword or whatever he's using and he just starts biting things. Like that'd be sick. Come on. As you can see, um, Rangers I still concluded that's a pretty solid design. I mean, in terms of this is a basic ranged sniper unit who also happens to be a cool lizard who has like the black and blue like Rhodes Island style like down to a T, right? Like you can't go wrong. I think within the short I say something along the lines of he's also apparently a really old man, um, which is a little bit hard to tell because it's hard to depict age on a lizard. Um, which like sure, there's not really much they could do about that, but I stand by the Rangers has an A tier design. Now I have to find his thumbnail. Here it is. Um, but yeah, I think I stand by that one for sure. But yeah, occasionally after the like end spiel, if I have time for it, I do sit there and I'll occasionally like squeeze a joke in. So if you're watching this and you're one of those people who haven't, um, A, for the future, maybe start doing that. The extra little bit of watch time does help me out a little bit, and you might catch an extra joke. And B, I'm probably going to show a couple of them in this video. So, like, you won't necessarily have to go back and find all of them now, right? Like, don't go out of your way to like pause the video, go find them, and then come back unless you are really, really dedicated to finding them on your own. Um, in which case, yeah, do that. Watch all my videos again. It'll be really fun. Um, but yeah, Yato.
Interesting operator.
Is Yato's got a really boring character design again, kind of on purpose. Um, it's nice that she's actually wearing combat boots despite the schoolgirl appearance, which is sort of vaguely part of like a Rhodes Island uniform thing. Like if you look at like the logistics operators and stuff, um, probably for field operators not the smartest thing, but yeah, for like the basic operators, like they do tend to have like this kind of like aesthetic, um, which like fair. Um, but yeah, like the whole point of Yato's character is like she doesn't want to stand out, and it does that very well. It doesn't stand out, um, so like they did a good job making her unremarkable, which hey, it's fair. A lot of people were like, "Damn, that's a big oof. I can't believe she's she's just left out, right? Like they're all like crying about it, and it's just like, yeah, but that's like, it's intentional. Um, because again, starter character. I do mention at the start that she's the only starter character that doesn't like have like kind of like a further class kind of start. Um, which is an interesting thing because like I say, she does serve as like a fast redeploy operator instead, and that kind of like generally speaking, when I started doing these 2-star characters, I included a little bit about who they were kind of like supposed to be in game. Because that does inform the design, right? And for Yato, who is supposed to be like the starter Vanguard, Vanguards tend to be like fast on their feet, like quick characters, right? So like a swordsman is like a really good idea for that. Um, and they tend to give you like DP, right? Um, so it's interesting that for Yato they decided instead of her being like kind of like you put her down, she gets DP for the next unit, you pick her back up and put down the next unit. They were just like, yeah, Yato's a fast redeploy character. You put her down uh, to like tank a hit or to hit like some stupid weak enemy, and then you pull her back, and then in 30 seconds or whatever, you can do it again. Um, it's like that ended up being like its own entire archetype, but she's a vanguard and not a specialist, which is a curious design decision. Like in terms of like the game design rather than the character design. It doesn't have anything to do with the character design other than it. Well, the thing is with fast redeploys and vanguards, they also both have kind of like a very similar design space, like philosophy, right? Just both types of characters. Like you want to think of them as like fast on their feet, like assassins or like chargers, like people who are on like the front lines, but will be very quick to like get out of dodge, right? So that overlap I think is kind of interesting. Um, but that's a pretty large tangent that is kind of irrelevant because I think Yato probably still sits at B. Mostly because, again, they set out to make an unremarkable character, and boy, is Yato unremarkable. Like mission accomplished, which is why like I can't fault it at all. I can't lower it from B, right? Like it accomplishes exactly what it's supposed to do. She's very unremarkable, but you know, um, no after credits joke in this one. Not yet. We're not there yet.
The final point.
You can also tell like I was very much like
Recognition. He's got a big old shield, so you know what he does.
like talking like so much slower, and like I had like kind of less to say, I guess, about the starter operators, which again, it's kind of fair. They've only got one art each, and it's a little bit harder to like
As the hand in his pocket
find things to say about each one of the starter characters in terms of like who they are and what they do. But yeah, I conclude that Norcorn is one of the better ones simply because he has really big obvious declarations of who he is as an archetype and as a personality. Like you can tell just looking at him, he's the chill, like like hanging out in the off to the side a little bit kind of guy who's just kind of like keeping an eye on things, right? Like you can see that just by looking at him, and for that alone, like getting that amount of personality through while also still being like a unique like Arknights character, right? Like he's got like the horn, he's got the big jacket, he's got the Rhodes Island logo, uh, the color scheme, the weird tech on his face, the like the knee pads that the early designs like to fall back on a little bit. Which boy will I get to those. There's a couple of shorts down the line, and I can talk about those. I make a joke about it here. Uh, but yeah, like he's a good design. And I think A minus is probably fair. But at the same time, because like I don't think he's as cool as 12F or Rangers, but and it's like it's comprehensive. I could move him up there with them though. I don't think there's like necessarily that many faults with his design that would necessarily push him down to A minus outside of where they are. So yeah, that's why we have the tier list, right? Like we're just like, I could bump him up. So post starter characters, this is where we're at. Um, Honestly, like we're doing pretty good overall. Like you look at how many operators are actually like highly rated versus the two that aren't. It's like we'll fill out a little bit more. I have a blooper. That's in the playlist because partially because it is technically an Arknights short character design short, right? And partially because like I don't know where else to put it. Um, it wasn't received super well. Like it's just a blooper. I thought it was really funny at the time, so I just was like, yeah, I'll just throw that in there. I'll just post it, whatever. It'll be funny. Um, it was like I don't know. It was kind of fun to make. But like it's not something I'm probably ever gonna do again. Especially since I do tend to not save my fuck ups from the audio recordings anymore anyway. So that's it's just probably gonna be a one off thing, but I'll keep it there. It's good stuff. A little bit of insight into my process. Um, but yeah, and then we have robots, and I think I kind of am really happy with where I went with this short, like taking the robots and comparing them, in terms of like the shape language they have, in terms of designs for, uh, each of them. Just kind of, being able to like talk about how that kind of shapes what you expect out of characters when you're referring to the design, like having like Lancet is the more caring, uh, the medical robot, right? Like I mean, she's even gendered as a female, whereas Castle 3 is gendered as a male, even though they're robots and don't actually have gender, right? Um, it's like like the how the shape language shapes those designs. Like, could you imagine if Castle 3 was rounded and looked kind of like soft and vaguely huggable? Like, it wouldn't be a very good design for something that's supposed to be an attack robot, now would it? So, yeah, like, I think I'm actually really happy with this particular short, and you know, what I was looking for to do with it to kind of like get my point across about how like certain things shape character designs that like a lot of people don't even really like think about, and just generally shapes are like one of those things,
This
right?
speaks both to the artist's resourcefulness and plays into the lore a bit, with them both being built by Closure, who would absolutely just use the same design.
That's also a nice little tidbit I talk about. It's just kind of like, yeah, like obviously the chassis are like 3D modeled, which is both funny if you think about it in universe, but also practical. Um, so yeah, I think I very much like those shorts. I think in terms of the grade, I think A is probably solid. Simply just because, actually, could I put them in A plus? They're pretty fantastic designs. I think I could put them in A plus. Like thinking about it, like I was like, because Castle is like, he's just got like those three little mortars. He could like have like a little bit more to him that tells you that he's like a combat drone, right? Um, but like realistically, I don't think it's necessary. Even like the tube here on Lancet kind of reminds you of like Lifeline's drone in Apex too. So it's like, having something like that there is you know, I'd say like it makes up for it. Like, you know, Castle 3 does at least have the mortars, so I'll give it to him. I think yeah, A plus design. It's pretty good. Um, so yeah, I'd adjust that. Um, yeah, I got a lot of people like, hey, where's the other robots? It's just like, hey man, release order. Then we finally get into the 3 stars. Check for joke. No joke.
Hibiscus is a 3.
This might be actually Hibiscus might be the first one. Where this is also, I think, the first short where I really like had to speak fast to get everything I wanted to say in. And yeah.
Star medic operator.
So
It's unfair to examine her design alone, but I'm doing it anyway because if I didn't, it wouldn't be one short. So, to the design. Hibiscus, combined with a few other operators, leads me to
this is another issue I was running into with the single art operators, is trying to make the shorts like interesting while also still working with, you know, single arts, right?
just the same
And at the time, the toolbox didn't have the model viewer yet either. So like the things that I've been doing recently, like grabbing, you know, like the operator models, like I did in, like the gravel short, I couldn't do that. Right? That wasn't a thing that existed because there was like one model viewer and it didn't work. Because trust me, I tried. So I couldn't really like do that. Um, so yeah, like trying to like make the 3 star shorts like interesting with like, you know, a still image to look at for a solid minute is pretty difficult. Even with the 2 images that I'm working with now, you know, for each operator having, you know, their 2 arts, it's still sometimes pretty difficult for me to figure out like how I'm gonna like write a joke in, or how I'm gonna figure out how to like keep someone invested in the video. Uh, you know, when I'm literally just sitting there talking over a still image, right?
design that the starter operator and
Um,
a few others appear less like a uniform and more like someone who doesn't belong.
and that's the kicker. Is even though like clearly they were originally going for the whole uniform thing, is the more and more operators they add that like go away from like the whole uniform thing, obviously it makes the uniform thing less credible, right? Um, which that like aspect of uh questionable credibility as things confute it, refute it, contradict it. I don't words. Um, but keep that in mind as we're going forward, because there gets to be some hot topics later on that we'll talk about.
Small bag of medicine that tells you she's a medic and not a caster, but it's a bit of a weak link since it's small and just a bag. Overall,
And most operators carry around at least some form of medicine pouch, you know, with their like, we saw them in the anime, but like the little like EpiPen things, like they all have them. Uh, you know, like if you look at like every single operator, they have at least one pouch that has medicine in it. Um, like almost every operator, they don't have to be a medic. So almost every operator, and a lot of them are like, you know, the more higher rarity operators, or the newer operators tend to have them like more often, rather than like some of the older ones. Like I think a lot of the examples of operators that don't have them are the older operators.
she suffers from what I believe to be early design decisions.
Same with like the armbands or leg bands that suppress the auropathy on the infected operators. Like you'll notice them a lot more consistently in a lot of like the newer designs, which you know, like is like an effort to say like, hey, this is this is a notable a notable feature that, you know, has to carry over through certain character designs, which, you know, good to have, especially when you're trying to make operators look connected within universe and stuff.
Subscribe, check out.
I think I stand by this one too. Like it's kind of like she's kind of boring. She's like, yeah, you can tell she's kind of like happy, bubbly, a little bit inexperienced, a little bit not confident, but also like, I'm here and willing to help, right? Um, and that's kind of like that's Hibiscus's character, and there's not really anything else to it, right? But you know, like that's also again, just because I don't necessarily like a character archetype doesn't mean it should really affect the grade of my design, like my grade of the design. But on the other hand, uh, you know, this is why they're my hot takes, right? Um, I think B minus is fitting, and frankly, I do think like there definitely like isn't enough about her that uh stands out like at all.
Out the channel.
Even when connected to her sister. Like the other thing is like Hibiscus and Lava. You look at them, and it's like, oh yeah, like you can tell they're sisters. They both have like the purple hair and the two horns. But like,
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment.
but even with like that in consideration,
Subscribe,
it's like,
or follow my Twitter.
you know, in terms of, you know, like character features, they're pretty far apart. And Lava has like, if we look at her, she has a lot more like red tints to her. Like this is a perfect comparison, right? Like the lighting on Hibiscus is much brighter, but Lava has like a bit of a darker like theme to her and everything, where like which again is intentional. She also like wears her Oropathy in the open, where it was like Hibiscus is just like, you know, like completely encased, right? Um, it's kind of like you can tell like with them side by side that they're related, but you can also tell which one of them is, you know, more stand out as a character, just in general.
Haven't seen last week's short on her, and
So
I encourage you to watch that one first. That said, let's.
also, I went and skipped it. But yeah.
I'm not a rapper. Love is a
My Shaw short has a lot of comments that would debate that fact. But I stand by it. I am not a rapper. I'm just someone who reads a script quickly for other people's entertainment. And you people don't see how poorly I do at that. Like, I mess up a lot, and that's another reason why the Nordcorn blooper stays in the playlist, because I do not ever like record these like in one go, right? Like it does not happen. Actually, that's not true. It's happened once. I said I was really particularly confident that day, and I had a short that I banged out under the time limit, and I was concise. I didn't flub, and I was just like I got really excited about it, and the only reason I remember it is that I got really excited about it. But now that I'm telling the story, I don't remember which short it was. I just remember how happy I was that I won. I did a short in one take. It's only happened once. um, probably should have put it in the memory banks which one it was, but I did not. So, uh, you know, maybe leave your guesses down in the comments. I don't know.
3-star AoE caster. She's a sister to Hibiscus.
But yeah, basically then I talk about how like Lava is more interesting as a character. She still has like connections to the Rhodes Island. She's you know, a spunky teen character.
Belt for bondage. She's got dark tights and combat boots, and with the many wristbands, strange tome, belt chains, particular hair ties, bone tooth necklace, and the knife, she's basically the embodiment of Chunibyo.
That's a good joke. And I dare anyone to come at me and tell me that that's not a good joke. In fact, that I give her a 1-up just based on how many features she has that just reminds me of edgy high school teen life.
Or in English, the emo phase, usually also with a bit of power fantasy. That also describes love as.
Also, I got a couple of comments that were like, that is a really apt description of Chunibyo, and I will now be using that to describe it to all of my non-weeb friends from now on. And I'm like, well, yeah. So first off, that's what it is. But second, like, thank you. I like to think that I am well spoken. And know what I'm talking about. So having people tell me that boosts my confidence a little bit. So, and see, like, that's kind of the thing that, like, you know, even though Lava is like very, you know, edgy teenager, right? She still has enough character to her where you can tell what her arts do. You can tell, you know, what her personality's like. You can
really good alone. In contrast with her sister, it's even better.
And even and again, and even in contrast, like, you know, it's like, it just goes to show, like, having just like a little bit of added details, like with the skirt, like, you know, tapers looking like little flames, right? Like that, just that little detail is enough to like elevate the character design from like what could be like a regular like A minus to like, yeah, this is like top tier design, right?
Now, if only she had some kind of mentor character to help her put all that teen angst towards a creative outlet, like making a movie. Wait.
That's also a good joke. Um, but yeah, I very much stand by that. Lava is probably still, I'd say, the best 3-star character design. Just it's just fantastic character design. Sure, it's all I can say. Ooh, we get our first controversial one.
Gonna be a bit of a hot take.
And I knew it. I also got like 2 comments saying, like, you know, debating like the usage of the word trap because it was quote unquote derogatory term for trans people, which is not correct. First off, and second, doesn't relate to real life. Because at least within the shell of the anime community and anime games and just like weeb culture, let's say, you know, like the definition of a tramp is a guy who identifies as a guy who is either forced, whether it's forcibly or non-forcibly, cross-dressing to, you know, literally for the purpose of obtaining the male gaze, right? Um, right, and like that's like what a trap is, right? That's why they're called traps, is because they are specifically guys that identify as guys, and the joke is that it's funny that they're guys even though they look like girls, so they can design a cute girl and, you know, like be like, haha, it's a guy. And that's it's a funny joke, right? It's not supposed to be like derogatory. The guys who are dressing up are not trans women. Um, like they're just guys. Uh, and so like that one was like a little bit like out of left field to me. I was just like, what? um, but yeah, basically in this short I talk about trap design and like
There's reasons avid anime fans have what they refer to as a trap sense, and unfortunately, they aren't good reasons.
it's because all the designs are samey, right? Like you can look at a trap and tell it's a trap because they all have the same character design. Um, and I stand by that. And the thing that sucks for Ansel, and there's like a decent amount of debate among the comments here. Um, like about like whether or not like people knew he was a trap or knew like it was even a guy. Like there's some people there that were like, I didn't even know it was a guy. There's some people there that are like that are leaning into it. They're like, wow, trap operator. Um, you know, and the thing is, Ansel is a character design that wasn't ever actually meant to be a trap. Um, like if you look, like at his art, kind of like in general, right? Like these are boy shorts. Like if you listen to his voice in game, like yeah, it's a female voice actress, but they're doing like they're like a little bit deeper kind of kid voice, right? So like it's a very like not masculine, but like it's a very common thing in anime to have female voice actresses voice young men, um, because a lot of guys, they grow up, they don't have that range anymore. They can't make their voice go up here to be like the little child. Ow. so like generally speaking, like that's not something that you can rely on to say that someone's like a guy or not. And like if you look at Ansel's hair in this picture, like it's actually like a lighting thing. Ansel has gray hair in this original art. Like if you look at him, he has gray hair. Um it's this part of his ear down here that's in the shadow and turned inward that has like a little bit of pink to it, along with the shadows and highlights of this, and I think a little bit the red of the eyes when you look at it from a distance bleeds into it a bit. Um, and that's why Ansel looks like he has pink hair. And then in his summer art, that was kind of taken a bit further, and like he was actually given like pink highlights in like the hair and stuff. But like realistically, he's probably just a white rabbit. Um, so like it's kind of funny that like Ansel's design uh works out this way. It's like there's an outside influence affecting the design, right? Like he was never really intended to be the trap character, but unfortunately, a lot of this is like, you know, uh, there's a couple of people in the comments that are like, well, if he wasn't even intended to be a trap to begin with, uh, why are you bothering to like to label him, right? Um, and it's one of those things where you kind of have to like look at a design and you look at like the factors that affect it, and like if there's a good portion of the community that does perceive Ansel as a trap character, there's probably a reason for that, right? Um, so as much as it wasn't like necessarily intentional, it like hurts Ansel's design like a lot. Um, and that's just the unfortunate truth. Like, you know, he was never really like intended to be, just generic Arknights trap, but it's what he turned into. And I think C plus is fitting because like it's his design isn't terrible. Like he I kind of say it in the blatantly sarcastic voice at the beginning of the short there. It's like you can tell he's a medic because he's got a clipboard and and a syringe, right? It's like yeah, it's like okay, you gave him like two features that were like yes, this is medic, and then called it a day, and it's sure I get it. It's a 3-star. But you know, maybe could have done a little better. I don't know. Just unfortunate. But yeah, it's just kind of how it rubs out, you know.
Because it was posing. He's pretty slim.
I stand by that. I think it's like a common thing for operators in this game to have like weapons that like like their lore or whatever makes like nods to, and then they're holding it like back here, like next to their head and like upwards, so you can tell what it is, but not so that you can like see any of like the features of it. And it's just like, let me see the thing, please.
Which well it explores Laterano, which is to say not at all.
That has also been changed since this short has come out. Granted, a Nagiel not present within that big fat lore dump, as it were, at all. So helpful to his particular case. No.
Keltitz is just because of his big brain, but I'm pretty sure that's meant to be a joke. Other than that, he's
I'm also pretty sure that's true. Like I'm fairly certain with the way it's written, I do believe that that's a joke. Like that is Keltsid being sarcastic. Um uh but yeah.
got a boring white and black palette, a Rhodes Island jacket like everyone else, and a pair of everyday sneakers. Overall, he's not got a lot going on, but it says something about your character's design when his most interesting trait is whatever those thigh-high pant things are.
Which I also stand by. Like I can understand like having like these like the straps on your legs to carry like equipment or whatever, but when those also then happen to have like shin pants, like what are those?
Thanks for watching.
But yeah, no, this is a short that I'd say I very much stand by. I don't like his posing. I don't like the fact that they talk about how he fully customizes his crossbow, and then you look at it and it's not shown at all, and it looks like a crossbow. It's just a crossbow. If you're gonna put all the effort into saying that, like, he customizes the thing, show me it, right? Um, and then there's like nothing that like is really impressive about his character or anything like that. Frankly, um, I could move him down to C minus, especially now that we do have Laterano lore, and it doesn't help explain a Nakiel at all. Um, yeah, I think I'd move on Nakiel down to C minus. I don't think his design is very good. Beagle.
Beagle is a 3-star defender.
Also a fantastic joke. Clearly it went over well.
She's like her namesake.
Top comment over here.
Maybe not the brightest, but incredibly loyal and hardworking. Her design conveys that a little, but let's talk about it. First things first.
You can tell I figured out the text box a little bit there. Just a little bit lighter colored, a little bit less in your face. I can't tell. Does that actually clash with the subtitle? It does. Yeah, that's not something I would do these days. But then again, these days my subtitles are up here, so which is still a decision that not everybody is happy with. I can't find a place for the subtitles that isn't either so smack in your face that it gets in the way of the short itself, and actually looking at like the art, uh, while also still being like out of the way of the shorts format's uh stinky UI that apparently changes from device to device and from uh zoom level to zoom level. Something that me and a couple other people troubleshooting figured out is like even though like this is 100% zoom for me, right? It's not necessarily 100% zoom for somebody else's phone, right? Or somebody else's Chrome tab, right? Um, and that affects like where the buttons are in the Shorts tab.
Overall,
I do stand by that. The cardigan with the shin long skirt, like very librarian esque. Um,
warm.
and I think that's true. She does have a very warm palette to her. Uh, don't really understand why she's named Beagle if she's clearly not a beagle. Um, also, I don't see the comment here, but shout outs to like the one person who was there for a little while that was like, "Hey, she's dead." She's like, "Come on, man, you gonna do that to people?" Uh,
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Check out the channel for
but yeah, Beagle. No post joke. I think I would make no changes to that. Sums it up pretty nicely. Beagle's a B. B for Beagle. You know, somebody else said that too. B for Beagle. Hooray! It's pretty accurate.
this week. We're talking about a 3-star Pero Defender operator. Wait, didn't we do that last week? It's a different one? Okay, never mind then.
I stand by that joke. Definitely would have made it faster these days, but
Supposed to point to Cardigan being a bit of a loose
yeah, that is a
cannon,
weird
but
spot
when
for a
all comes
handle,
together, it doesn't really
especially when
look
it's
all that
tied to her
great.
wrist.
Another operator with a black and
It's
white
like somebody's just gonna
computer,
grab
but
it.
really stands out. Thanks for watching.
Like that's pretty silly. Also, agreed. I know Cardigan is probably supposed to point to the intended dog breed, but it doesn't come through at all. Um, and like there are some people who mentioned that. I also replied to it, but it's like she doesn't look like a Cardigan like corgi like at all, right? Like it's part of the reason I think she's probably like a Malamute or a Husky or something, because like it just fits the character better. Like how they've designed her, right? She just looks more like one anyway. Um, but yeah, uh, it also yeah, it also then didn't give her a cardigan, which like what a waste, man. Uh, because then it could have been like a triple entendre, you know. But yeah, none of it comes through. C plus is a little bit high, I think. Like because she does have those like good points that I mentioned in the beginning, but she also does fall apart heavily. Um, that said, I think C plus is probably where she should stay. Um, because I do harp on it a little bit here, but like she does also have good points, right? Um, like her personality comes through pretty well. You can tell by looking at her that she's kind of more attuned to just like loud wintry activities, right? Um, so like if they can push that much through, even while being like this much of a mess with a weapon that makes literally no sense, and a tie for some reason outside of like the jacket, and her stupid little Android 18 thing that she's wearing. I don't like that jacket. But I think being able to actually still get like the character through with those aspects in mind, still worth a C plus. I give it to her. Still puts more personality on the table than Savage, I'd say.
Fang is a
And that's the real hot take. Fang.
3-star Vanguard operator. Like her Paro team,
This one also has a little bit of controversy behind it, but
fanged animals. She's also got a fairly simple design.
you know, not
Fang
one.
is the leader of Team A1. The team itself is basically a group of misfits, and in that group, Fang is supposed to be the standardized leader. She's the straight man.
Yeah. This is when I kind of start going into like, hey, 3-star characters are pretty generic and based on tropes because they're 3-star characters and they can be defined by like one personality trait because they're not really supposed to be like that crazy interesting, right? This is kind of like when I start like being like, yeah, this is gonna be a recurring thing as I do more and more of these shorts. If I were to do this bit now though, with her team, I would use the model viewer to get some frames of like them walking, their Beagle like standing around, turn her model around, and then like have her walk back, and then have Cruz would be like, you know, in the lying down pose in the base. Beagle would like that, just like walk over and like pull her away, right? Like that, there's a lot more that I would do with this if I were to make it now, is that I have like access to like a model viewer and stuff. I don't know how long the editing would take, probably like a bajillion years. Because I also have to like record like the model viewer like individually. You know, like I go to the toolbox and I open it up and I put the freaking blue screen on the thing, and then I sit there and I record it, and then I have to come through and I have to like take those recordings and figure out which part of the recording I want to like make sure like the animation comes through, and then if there's a sound effect to go with it, I have to add that in manually and all that stuff. So like it'd be one heck of a time. But it's still I would want to put the effort in to like make this differently if I were to do it again. But that's my first joke about me being a teacher, giving the designs grades like I'm like handing out like papers, which turns into a bit of a running thing, as you'll see my D grades. Like, they start saying like "see me after class." That's a reference to that. But that's the first instance of that joke. Kind of rough on Fang, right? But I did say at the beginning of this one that it had a bit of controversy behind it, and the bit of controversy was the fact that I was basing a lot of assumptions off of the character name, which frankly falls on the localization team and not the original designers. However, it is much like how Ansel's situation of being like, someone whose design accidentally falls in to the, no pun intended here, trappings of, like a specific archetype that like people then latch on to, and like that character then somewhat becomes a name, is very impactful on a character design. And if you have a character design and her name is supposed to be Wind, and you name her Fang instead of localizing it properly because you don't want people to hear Fang and read Wind, as their operator name, that's that's a problem with the design. like yeah, it's a problem with the design that's inherent because I'm not playing the Chinese version of the game, but it's still a problem. Because it changes how you interpret the character. Hell, I saw when I started playing Arknights and I saw the name Fang and I look at her character design, I didn't even see a horse. I saw a dog. Right? And that was solely because of the name. And with that said, that's a heavy portion of the design that does influence it. And because of that, I think it's a completely valid reason, if especially with, if I'm for other operators, I'm considering the other environmental factors for, where they are, and where their designs land. Then, to be fair, I have to do the same for Fang. The name does hurt the design. And that's just a fact. Granted, she's also boring without considering the name, the whole naming controversy. As a matter of fact, if she was just named Wind, her grade would probably go down. Cause man, what a shit operator name that would be. But yeah, it's just it's rough. It's rough out here for characters that are not localized the way you'd expect. And here we have the return of the Kokodayo joke.
Yeah, that. Cruz is... Oh, okay, yes, she's here.
She's here.
Cruz... Would you cut that out? Cruz is the last member of the entire previous garrison. So, like with Fang...
And with some of the stories, we actually do see a little bit of her her fire here and there. Especially with her alt up. But yeah, it's very much not the character she lets on to be, which makes her very interesting. And in terms of how that reflects on the trope that she's also playing into, it is something that is both common to the trope while also being unique in its own right. And that's why I think Cruz's design is really good. But I agree that she's also pretty generic.
Not original or super interesting, but it's a good design. Besides, there's something to be said about her having the most annoying and memorable voice lines in the game. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.
That's a good joke too. Just the sudden zoom in and she yells at me for calling her annoying. Yeah. It's, I she's got a solid design, in terms of how she takes what she works with, right? So you could probably use maybe a little bit more Arknights flair, and she does have that thing where, remember how I was complaining about characters that hold the crossbow up here and we can't see nothing about it? Granted, Cruz doesn't, have lines in their lore specifically about how they customize their crossbow and stuff. But, it is still a tick against her. I also like the thumbnail, Cruz Desio. Just which...
Until next time, Cruz Desio. Melantha is...
Just saying, you could have missed that one. Activate Melantha's skill. Yep. I stand by my interpretation of Melantha here, too. I actually notice more and more, actually, as I play the game, that there are probably, a few operators that are kind of, autistic presenting. But like
Like
Melantha's
Fang's
like the
team, or
first
her
one
team.
that like
Well,
really
Fang
sticks
comes
out to me
across
as
much better
like,
than Fang's. You see, where
yeah, she's
Fang is
kind of
like
an
a boring
autist.
template, Melantha feels like the perfect character to back up.
That's not like
Yeah,
a bad
she's
thing.
shy,
Like,
quiet,
in
and you can tell just by
actually,
looking at her
statistically
face.
speaking, with the number of operators we have, the fact that I see multiple of them that could be representation of it, that's probably pretty normal for, how many people are actually autistic, right?
Or it
Um,
might just be my interpretation, but she even comes across a little autistic.
with Fang, it's like, yeah, fast Vanguard operator who is supposed to be like a mobile field operative. She's wearing a dress. Why? But Melantha, you know, uh, unique character wielding a sword. She's wearing a dress. Why? Well, because she's from a Victorian noble house. She has to dress proper. Like, like the fact that like, like there's actually like something behind it. Definitely like just elevates the design that much more. Um, so yeah, uh, I stand by my interpretation of Melantha, and I stand by the fact that I think Melantha's design is up there among the 3 stars, next to Lava. Got to be the best, you know.
And in terms of the 3-star characters that only have one art to get all of it across, Melantha is one of the best there is. Thanks for watching.
And I say as much.
Subscribe, check out the channel for more, or follow my Twitch if you want. Twitter and Melantha.
Man, the ability that I had in these early shorts to just be able to like pause for time or like effect. I wish I had some of that back, man. I'm way too wordy these
Orchid
days.
embodies the team mom archetype. She's a stylish older lady, formerly involved in the fashion industry.
I stand by
She
that
shows
too. How she's kind of
Orchid's
like
long-held
the
life.
found family
Upon being
mom.
hired by Rhodes Island and
Um,
bonding with her team, she's got a newfound family.
Interesting thing. People are all over the comments being like, "Where's the rest of Team A6? Where's the rest of Team A6?" Orchid is the only member of Team A6 that came out with the release of the game. She's the only one. We don't see her team members until like a month after the game released. So that's why. They will be getting shorts when I finally get there. But that's probably based on the number of 5 and 6-star characters I have to get through. Probably going to be the start of next year. So, and that's if I keep the current pace up. Currently, I've missed 6 weeks, right? Because out of the 52 weeks, I've missed 6. So got because I've got 46 videos. Um, Granted, I doubled up a couple of those to fill when I would miss a week, but point being, keep at that current pace. I figured hit somewhere in the 50 range, and I probably will be like either just finishing up the 5 stars, but there are a couple less 5 stars than there are 4 stars, so I might be on to like the 6 stars by then. But it probably won't be till next year that I actually get into the timeline, which I do have an idea for. I want to make videos that are going to be like event reviews that go through like the events themselves before I go into each the characters released with each event. Just to kind of like give an idea of what the event was like, and kind of put things out there for people who might not have experienced it. I think that'd be like a pretty cool video idea. I'm gonna need to find probably like some footage of the actual like event UIs, maybe. Because I don't have any, and Twitch doesn't save my VODs for more than a month, so even going back into those wouldn't have them. But it's an idea that again probably isn't going to come to fruition until like next year anyway. But that's something I want to do, so keep that in the back of your mind maybe. Um, but yeah, I basically say like Orchid's design, like she's super fashionable. She's got that older woman doesn't really want to be the mom character, but is anyway kind of vibe. Um, and like that, it's very clear. Um, I mean, she has the massive handbags every mom needs. Um, so yeah, Orchid A tier design. I do want to start banging these out a little bit quicker. I've been rambling a bit too much, I think, because it's been an hour and a half, and I said I didn't want this to go to 2 hours. Granted, I do have to cut some stuff down, probably delete a couple of rambles, but you know, I'd like to go a little bit faster. So let's try to make sure the video is under 2 hours. So next we have Plume.
This week.
You know, it's like there's like an air of mystery to a little bit of Plume's lore about like who she is and how she got here. Um, but yeah, I think that short sums it up pretty well. So let's just keep moving on.
This week we're talking about Steward, who, guess what, is a steward. Steward is a
That about sums it up right there, huh? That's a good joke.
Live up to his name. Silver Ash opened the
For those of you who don't understand the reference, Bill Wirtz. But yeah, I just talk about how like he's like a model and he sells stuff and he shows people around because he's a steward. You know, he helps people out where he can. He's a service person. That's his whole shtick. But yeah, like I do not think he's like super impressive. I do not think he's super interesting. And he does, I feel like, lack that sense of belonging. Like he doesn't look like he's from Keurig. He doesn't look like he's from Rhodes Island. He just kind of looks like a dude. Although I will say it's interesting that people who were hiring for like him to be a model and stuff were okay with the fact that he was infected. That's an interesting step in the lore of the universe, especially when the jacket he wears clearly shows it. So that's kind of vaguely interesting. But yeah, that's kind of like the only bit of him I think is vaguely interesting. So yeah, that's Steward.
Not so much.
Here I basically say
I
like
kind of get it. It just doesn't appeal to me.
like she's kind of a Gap Moe character. And if you want to watch the short where to see where I explain it, you can do so. But yeah, it's not something that like holds a lot of appeal for me, and it's I don't know. Her character design just doesn't like it. Just again feels kind of out of place. Doesn't seem like the kind of design that I look at and think, yeah, that's an Arknights character. So yeah, vanilla, not great. So boop, there you go. So yeah, I told you we'd fill out the tier list a little bit. Now we're done with the 3 stars, and we got like a nice little chunk here. We're looking pretty good. So on to the 4 stars.
We have a 4-star medic operator.
And of course, my first 4-star was Gavial. And Gavial, boy oh boy, Gavial. I released this short. I was like, yeah, who's a good 4-star to start with? I'll start with Gavial. She's got a like sort of interesting design that like could be improved. She's like a good starting point for the 4 stars. And also I could make that joke about her being similar to Vanilla in terms of like lore, right? Also, I think this is the first one where I have the subtitle box. I like the subtitle box. That's still relevant. There's a lot of that going around in the design space. But yeah, hopefully we'll get an alt-top that solves this problem for her. I released this short the week that the CN servers got Gavial Alter, which I told one of the other Arknights creators that I follow, that I would refer to as Gator, back when he did a short on that. So, Gator. It was just a comment on his video. I didn't like tell him personally or anything like that. I don't know enough people in this creator space for that kind of thing. But yeah, no, like it's pharmacist to pharmacist. I like that joke. That's a good joke. I laughed about that for a really long time. But yeah, this short popped the fuck off because of its particular release timing. And boy, was everybody sure, like, you can tell it wasn't quite at the time because, like, if she gets it, but then, like, or like, oh, she's got a good skin, but then yeah, or at least this short, like, the week that they previewed Gator, um and boy, does everybody just love to say, like, hey, she's getting the thing that you asked for, which I am happy about. The fact that she gets to, like, show off, like, a different design that, like, encapsulates her character a little better, like, that's awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. I will be pulling for her when she comes out, right? I try to pull for all the alt tops. I missed Hibiscus this week. Go watch the VOD. Or I guess last week, because at this point, when this video comes out, I'll be doing the EX stages for the Hibiscus event. That's beside the point. I didn't pull her. Kind of sad about it. But yeah, no, like I am a fan of all tops in general. Like just as like a thing that they have decided to do. Like I think they're good like mechanical ways to move stories forward. Um, Especially in a game that is about constantly pulling new characters, right? I think ooh, I gotta reposition. Yeah, I do I do think that's like actually like a really good uh way to like push stories for characters that we're already familiar with. Um Rather than just give us a bunch of new characters over and over. League of Legends. so so yeah, I don't know. I think it's fantastic that she's getting an alt up, but boy, did this short go completely through the roof. It's my most viewed short. It's my most commented on short. I get it. Gator is coming. Thank you. um, but yeah. As for her original design, a little bit product of the environment, but doesn't quite come across as much as we'd like her to.
This week we have another
So then I had, to follow that up with a 4-star that,
code name is just their job. Courier. Courier is a member of the Carlin Trade
you know,
Silver Ashes Group.
was actually like
Possession
really
of
well
jacket,
designed.
Scarf, snow pants, goggles for when he's moving faster than snow, functional boots, and gloves to protect
You can also tell just by listening to it a little bit that I was sick when I recorded this.
his hands.
I think he still deserves the A plus, but the fact that his snow pants aren't connected to his boots, so he's just getting snow in his boots constantly, I think is really funny. But yeah, this is a good example of like also like a character who like will for sure like 100% like needs to dress warm in like the cold environment kind of thing, even though oh, they're an animal who lives in a cold region. Faulty argument. um yeah, it's like this is good design. He also has like a little bit like even like looking at like the snow apparel like the like reflective orange, so like that you could like see him in like a snowstorm, like also the fact that it's like dark, like it's just like Courier's design is so well put together, and then he starts working, he's fighting, he's like warmed up, he's being a badass. Of course the coat has to go around his waist, right? Like it's a good way, like this is clearly like man service, right? Like you know, like his shirt is like straight up spandex. It's sticking to his form. Like there's not like a way that like you can look at this and say it's not man service, but it's good man service. Like it has like a functional purpose, right? And it like makes sense in terms of like the design of the character and like how like normally he also wants to like cover up his scars and stuff to like not come off as an aggressive battle ready human being, you know, because normally he's just like a dude who carries messages around, you know, like, hey, I'm the postman, I'm your friendly neighborhood guy, right? Bundled up for the winter, you know, like, whereas this is like, I will literally kill you. You know? It's like, and the fact that like this is like a face that he only shows to people he like either is going to kill or really trusts, like that's kind of like Courier's design is actually just so well put together. Um Big fan. Uh until next time. Cold feet. Uh I don't know why that stuck in my head to be like the post joke, but it did.
Cold feet.
So
This week we have one more operator who you used to
still a little bit sick in this one. Just a little bit.
be able to buy from the store, Quora. Quora is a complete mess, and I'm not just saying that because she can't remember.
You can tell I was starting to get better though.
Basically has 3 traits.
I also have better ways to make that work now. It's just a little bit better.
It's a tower shield, but a
Because that actually was an update to the tool I use for editing. That I can now in the zoom feature that I use to make sure that the character arts stay within the box most of the time. Yeah, that was they recently updated it to add uh, a rotation to the image itself rather than the object when you put it in the like the timeline. Um, so yeah, that was an update. I can now do that better.
Nonetheless, not a shell.
So I
the
would if I
designers
could.
had the task of
Yeah, that's it's a bit rough, but also kind of true. Um, the other thing is like they're like we have no idea where Quora is from. But you can look at her fashion, like she has a very I'd in terms of the Arknights universe, I'd call it Colombian design. Like she looks like she's from Colombia. Um, so like why they don't assume that is strange to me. But yeah, it's just kind of like Quora. I don't know. They just, like I mean, I say as much right there. Is just like you had to make a baseball playing turtle in like the Arknights universe, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, when I say Arknights,
And they just made a super generic human. Like even like you look at her base art. Does like anything about this scream turtle? like okay, yeah, Quora the name also is part of like the scientific reference for turtles. So yeah, by my own logic, the name influences the design. But A, that's not common knowledge. And B, like turtle. Does that make it any less of a phone? I don't even know if that was on camera. But you know, you get my point, right? It's like, yeah, she just looks like a schoolgirl. She doesn't really look anything like what she's supposed to be. So yeah, Quora first D. Quite unfortunate. See me after class. Also, something I see a lot in these comments is people who either like interpret this as like whether or not I like a character, or like they're like mad that it like I give them like a bad grade or whatever. It's not that fucking. First off, I'm gonna get to a character that has a very bad design, but I very much like. Um, I'm gonna get there. Trust. Uh, but like the where I'm grading these designs is a combination of things, right? Like it obviously is affected by my personal thoughts and opinions. Um, because design is subjective. Uh, but I also try to look at the objective elements that go into a design to like why to like kind of like see why I interpret it that way. Um, and that's kind of where like the grades come from. With the 3-star operators, I explained myself a little bit better about how like a lot of them are kind of like tropey, stereotypical designs, and some of them execute the trope pretty well, but they're not characters, whereas others get their characters across and fulfill like their role as like a trope or a basic character. And those are the good designs, right? Um, like it doesn't really like affect whether or not I like the character that much, though sometimes it is reflective of that. Um, if I don't like a character, I am more likely to start to come from the angle of I don't like a character's design when I'm in like the scripting process. But generally speaking, if I do some research for like these design shorts, and if I look into it and I find that there are aspects of the design that are like super interesting or more well thought out than you might expect, like my opinion can on that can like change, and therefore like the grade of the design will change. Like it doesn't necessarily reflect whether or not I like a character. Um, for instance, actually, you know what? Put that discussion on hold. There are a couple of characters that'll be relevant for coming up. So, well, there you go. Actually, here
the future, I see. Gitano?
that yeah was one of them.
Gitano is a 4-star AoE caster and a master of fortune telling.
So yeah, Gitano's a big one on that point where like Gitano's like uh you know kind of initially like a pretty like harmless character design. But like you look into you know like just in general all the things that go on about the particularly marginalized group of the Romani, like like it kind of puts a shadow over the design that's just kind of like, hey, maybe this is like not something that's necessarily okay to everyone, right? Um, so like Gitano has a lot of other controversy to it too. Like this short is probably by far my most controversial. Um, but I stand by a lot of it, and there are a lot of people who are like, hey, if you like the design, why not, you know, why not just give it the higher grade? I mean, it's your series. It's like it's clearly like meant to be like a decent design, and I'm like, because there's that part of this series that is trying to be objective, and um like I don't explain it super well all the time, but like Gitano has this um like this design that's built up on a stereotype that has been like harmful in the past. And like the designers did a really good job of like trying to take the design and like turn it into something that is like a lot more representative, a lot like, uh, try to be like, this is just it's not like harmful in the way that the stereotype was. But if I were to make it like a metaphor, right? If your design is you're building a house, right? And your like cornerstone is faulty, right? Like you can build like a really nice house and it'll look fantastic and be a fantastic place to live. But if your cornerstone is faulty, the house is still going to fall down, right? So, in that sense, it's like Gitano's design, like from like all the work that was put into it, is it's a good design, but it has like this inherent flaw at the base of it that like the design only works because of this just like stereotype that's like regularly accepted, even though it's like a potentially harmful, like frowned upon by the group it affects, stereotype, right? Like it's built upon that block. And like I don't know, I think that's enough to like say that this is a flawed design, even if I like it. Like I think Katano's design is flawed. And I don't think she deserves higher than a B. And I stand by that. And there's like, like there's a lot of people that it's like, maybe some that like don't really get it, or like, yeah, I mean it's a stereotypical fortune teller design. Doesn't necessarily mean she's a Romani. But like, again, first off, name. Second, uh, like the like it's because that stereotype is built from, you know e- essentially people throwing hate at the Romani, right? So like that's it. I don't know. Like I don't claim to be an expert. I'm 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 an American white boy. Uh, you know. So like I don't like I'm not like a historian either. Like I don't know all the details or stuff like that. But what I do know is I can see where like that is very clearly a flaw. Um, and because of that, that's why my grade is like that's why my grade remains a B. I'm standing my ground on that one. Um, on a lighter note, though, there was also one comment somewhere in here. Yeah, isn't the country that Katano's based off of Finland? Um, no. Like from what I've seen, there's a lot of like speculation about where it is, whether it's like somewhere in the Alps, or whether it's like somewhere more Scandinavian. Um the thing is with the information we have on it now, it's left fairly vague. Um but that's also a little bit beside the point. Because the information we do have is essentially that it's uh a cold country with a lot of like wild mysticism that like it has a lot of like not understood magics and a lot of like powerful beings that reside there. And that's kind of more what I was trying to get at when I mentioned the country in the short. Um where it's yeah, mystic origins and home country, right? Like that's like one thing. Because what I was trying to get at there is like, um a lot of people like perceived the Romani is coming from like somewhere they didn't understand. It's like a magical place or whatever, and like like that was part of like a perception that uh was pretty common rather than you know being like specifically it's this country, right? Um, which yeah, I guess that's kind of on me. Um, Probably should have worded that differently or included it differently, but uh yeah, that's just like no, it's not Finland. Um, but not really the point I was going for. Not like it's not like I feel like Sami isn't like super one to one with any particular country, at least not yet. For how much the lore has been developed for it, I was just kind of going for more of a general feel kind of thing. Um, yeah. Meteor.
This week,
I think
our
this
soft cover
pose with
footage is
the
much
with the
battle-hardened
rearing
information
horse
than
behind it, like a lot of people were like saying like, oh, but the back of the horse is weird. I think like personally, I think like the having like a for an archer, like having this feel like it's like a wind spirit, where it's like not like all the way you know put together, where it's kind of like wispy and it feels like like yeah, the legs in a weird spot. But it feels like it's a little bit like disconnected from itself because it's like it's about the speed of the shot. Like I actually think that helps the design rather than hurts it. Um,
together. It looks badass as hell.
but
He's
yeah.
running out of arrows though. Meteor's just one of my favorites.
So I stand by that grade. Her E2 art isn't necessarily like the most like impactful, even among the 4 stars, but like you look at it and it's like that's a really good E2 art. Like for especially for a 4 star character whose E2 arts are like kind of not supposed to be like the big dynamic like action punches that the 6 stars are. I think Meteor
Thanks for
is
watching. Remember to like, comment,
incredibly
and
good.
subscribe. Check out the channel for more, or follow my.
So yeah, I say I still stand by that. Still a horse girl, but yeah, I stand by that.
Matterhorn.
Matterhorn.
Matterhorn is a forte, a bull. He was raised in the mountains of Kirag, thus
That's a bit of intentional misdirection. Um, I say as much later in the short.
his companion.
But that
He's
like
also Silver Ash's bodyguard and
I kind of say like you're kind of supposed to read him as a bull.
weirdly though, his design
Um,
seems mostly focused on the bull part. His getup is much more reminiscent of a
which
cowboy than a mountain man, with chaps and
yeah,
cowboy boots and the tassels off the coat.
yeah, and that's the thing is his design leads you there, right? Like I open it saying he's a bull and then give you examples of why he's
Pants. He
a
does have
bull,
some elements that imply a
right?
harsher environment. His backpack looks
Um,
to be made of warm fabric, and he has carabiners for climbing the mountains, similar to Courier. But there isn't much else to say about him,
so
unlike other operators who show time
there's
progression.
definitely a bit of misdirection there, but then like
Though, so I guess that's a change. Overall, Matterhorn is cool and his E2 art is good, but his design kind of stops at Bullman with Shield and doesn't reflect enough of who he is, where he's from, or who he works for. It makes it worse when you realize he's actually a yak, not a bull.
that's like the punchline, right? Is like that's where I carpet pull you. I have now successfully if I were to compare it to earlier how I was talking about the traps, I have successfully pulled the rug and you are now aware that he is not in fact a bull. It's not in fact a girl. Right? Um and it's haha funny. Um See, I'm capable of using the same styles of comedy that I can criticize. Uh but like the yeah, that's like Matterhorn's E2 art is like really high quality. Like it's really good art,
Thanks for watching.
but that just doesn't matter because just design just doesn't fit the character, right? Um, and that's kind of like the kind of thing where it's like, the quality of the art doesn't necessarily affect how good or bad the design is. So, sorry, Matterhorn, you just This is just how it is. But yeah. And again, that's something like I get people who are like, right, you know, like I didn't know that, right? So
This week we have a 4-star medic.
you know, like obviously there's a reason for that.
Operator.
So
Where is a Volpo? A fox.
hey, talk about Mur,
Thinking she
who this line here, I wouldn't fault you for thinking she was feline.
was a feline. It's the tail.
It's the tail. I was one of those people. That's part of the reason I included that line. Literally, probably up until it was before I worked on this short, but it was something that was like brought to my attention because I was talking about how like Mur's like a cute cat girl or something like that, and then to like someone else who played the game, and they were like, but she's a fox," and I was like, "What?"
It was a feline.
So yeah,
Despite that, her E1 arc gets her character.
that's actually why I included that line.
She has a bag full of herbs and tools for her E card. She's using
But
certain aspects.
blah blah blah. We never get to see the Mur use this in game. Although this is the first short that I made where the toolbox actually was available. So there you go. There's Mur's little thing.
The background doesn't make much sense either.
But like yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like that having the sound effect and her actually throw the tube on time and all that, like I had to do that manually. Because I download all the assets for that. Like I get all the assets for that separately.
The background doesn't make
it's
sense either.
you know, editing magic. And that's also a point I stand by. She's literally like, yeah, I harvest, you know, potentially harmful materials, and I wear big gardener's gloves and a jacket to make sure it doesn't come in contact with my skin. And then she wears a frilly flat skirt and no tights, so she's gonna get like a ton of poison ivy all over her legs. Like, what a stupid freaking character design. Like that alone is like just big ass negative, but the rest of her design is pretty good. Like I talk about in here, like it's like yeah, she's very much not like a combat threat. You can tell she's like a healer. It's like, you know.
Thanks for watching. Remember.
So like there are definitely aspects of her design that come through like really well. Which is why she's a B minus. But it's just like that. Her outfit is meh. Ooh, Shiryuki.
This week we have a 4-star AoE sniper, Shiryuki.
I like this short. I have no particular reason for liking this short over some of the others. But I like this short. And that's where like I'm just like, yeah, like you can make a design, like a character who is just like a trope, but then like you can like do so much to like actually give it character. And I think Shiryuki really fits that. I give it an A here, but frankly, I think Shiryuki could be moved up to A plus. Because just the way that they're like, what kind of animal can we make like a stealthy ninja? It's like, oh, something with camouflage. What about an ermine, right? Like we take it, we you know, like we give her like super winter theming. We get like black clothes, but she's a ninja, but she's bright white fur because she works in the snow, right? It's like, and her actual like snow outfit that they like that came out in the store, it's that's supposedly like a continuation of her character. Like, bro, that skin is so good. Like, it's just like Shiryuki's design comes together like so well. I think the actual reason that I decided on A and not A plus was something that I didn't even mention in the short. I think it was because she's wearing black in her base art rather than white, because if she's a ninja working in the snow, she should be wearing the color associated with it. Like I understand like the whole camouflage and you want her to pop and stuff, but like come on. The skin fixes that issue, obviously. But I also like, I don't actually think that that's like enough of a downside even to say that her design isn't like A+ tier.
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, check out the channel for more, or follow my Twitch if you want to watch me play games. Until next time, believe it! This week we have a...
She's a ninja. I can't not make a Naruto reference. 4-star
AoE medic, Lena, or Perfumer.
Now, see, that's a joke because I like to think of operators whose like names we know. But that one's a bit of a joke because Perfumer is like, I think, the only character in the base game who you like recruit her and she goes, "Hi, I'm Lena, a perfumer." And it's just like, so like it's just like, since she's the only one, it's like, well, obviously I had to like point that out, right?
Perfumer is just that.
Perfumer in particular, like obviously I didn't like get like a time to go into it, but Perfumer in particular, like in her story and in like her skin and stuff, like that fox is like very much regarded as a pet. Like they say like it runs around and helps her like collect flowers and stuff, like when she asks for them when she's like mixing like a particular perfume. And it's just like, so like that's just a physical thing, right? But then why does it have your arts coming from its tail, right? Like you know. So like there's definitely some like questionability to how much of it is an arts manifest and how much of it is a pet. And I say that it's not the last operator that comes into question because there are plenty of other characters that have like pets or like familiars that seem to also fill the role of their arts manifest. Like Moose's kitties, right?
My only
And it's
gripe
just
about her design is her color
completely
palette. It's very
unclear
tan,
in
but
most
there are also
cases.
nuances to the wafting scent feeling.
You have no idea how hard it was to actually get the "you died" to pop in, by the way. Like, to get, like, a chroma keyed "you died." I don't know why that was so hard to find, but it was. And then put in, like, implement. But yeah, a little bit of Podenko shadowing, which there are some people who were happy to see. But yeah, it's I stand by this grade too. I think Perfumer has a good design, but I feel like the artist was unnecessarily working with a limited palette, and that hurts it. And that basically sums it up. Really, it's just like, yeah, I think her design is pretty good. It's just like, why work with a limited palette when you don't have to?
This week we have a 4-star AoE guard, Estelle. Estelle's an Archosauria, like Gavial, except her orthopathy caused her to mutate and have large horns. I looked for a real-life correlation, and there was a species of horned crocodile that lived 9,000 years ago, but its horns were
That's such an obvious, terrible like post edit.
small in comparison to Estelle's. I also
I love it. But yeah, I do think that like there was also like more to be done. She's got a bird friend, like how like certain species um of birds like to make friends with alligators and crocodiles to like pick their teeth, right? And it's like, so like there was like more they could have done with that. How like they could have like said like the bird hangs around with Estelle because it likes to clean up her plate or something like that after she's done eating, or something, just like just a little nod to it or something. But yeah, a lot like her design's just like bad, man. Like I know she was like one of like the first designed characters for the game. And they were just kind of like throwing like ideas at a wall, and it's just like, what if the disease makes an alligator grow horns? Like yeah, okay, sure, why not? Um, but like, yeah, just in terms of how it comes together, it's bad, man. It's just so bad. Just rampantly sexualized for no good reason. Especially on a character who innately doesn't want to be looked at, right? Like realistically, she should be like wearing like a hoodie, right? Because she's trying to like hide her horns and like she doesn't want people to look at her. She should be like closed off and stuff. Like she shouldn't be like that. Um, but yeah, it's just like not a great character design. Personal opinion. Um, and probably in general. Um, and someone was like, someone in the comments brought up that the fact that her scars go away in her E2 art could be reflective of how when she's fighting she heals herself, right? Like she has her talent that heals herself when she I don't remember if she kills an enemy or if enemies die around her. There's a couple of talents like that, like Flamebringers and hers, and they get mixed up. I think hers dies around her because I think Flamebringers is specifically he has to kill them until his module upgrade or something like that. Uh, Beside the point. Um, and like first off, that's actually a really good point. So thank you for pointing it out. However, counter argument. Uh, the scars in terms of design, I think, do more to show like a character is capable of healing from battle than not having the scars, if that makes sense. Um, because like if you see scars, like they're battle wounds that have healed, right? It's not like she's got like open wounds or anything like that, but the fact that she has them tells you, yeah, that this is a person who's like good in a fight and like like they've moved past it, they've healed it off, right? Um, so like so in a sense, you're right that like completely removing them could be reflective of them like trying to be like, oh yeah, she healed, right? Uh, but personally speaking, this is where like the subjectivity comes in rather than the objectivity. I don't like that as a direction for the design to go. Um, like I I think the scar does more storytelling for the character than the you know the lack thereof in the quote unquote upgrade. Um, so yeah, that's uh that's that's my thoughts on the matter.
Watching, remember to like, comment, subscribe, check out the channel for more, or follow my Twitch if you want to watch me play games. Until next time, Gooby.
Talking fast. But yeah, so Estelle lands herself in D tier. Like that's just it's just how it is. Um,
This week we have a 4-star
then we have Hayes, who like I'm sure you've all seen it. Like she's got like a pretty cool like magician design that has like like ties certain other things into it, different aspects. She's like it tells you she's a criminal. It tells you like these are her arts, and like this is her like just going ham. I'm losing my words. I've been talking too long. I need to wrap this up. But
Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment.
but yeah, like there's like minimal faults with it. I think A is a good sticking point for Hayes. Next we have Jessica.
Sniper operator Jessica. A cat girl with some confidence issues, Jessica is known for her sad expression and the fact that she has the most skins in the game, leading players to call her rich. A trainee from Black,
Which is obviously not the only reason. That's it, like I put in parentheses here along plenty of supporting story interactions because like realistically she's rich in the story, right? Like it's basically given as a fact. Also,
players to call her rich. A trainee from
good little hidden meme there. Catch you if you're paying attention. But yeah, like like she is rich. Like I think it's actually theorized that she's like the daughter of like the Rim Billiton's CEO or something like that. Uh, but yeah, it's like she's definitely rich. It's just I thought the her having the most skins in the game thing was like a funny interpretation of why, right? Um, which you know, obviously that's not true. Uh, but yeah, I definitely should have scripted that better, and that one is on me. Um, so
But her doubt in her abilities keeps her from
yeah,
realizing her own aptitude, so she ends up with a pretty standard order pistol. Her outfit is relatively unremarkable.
that's another thing. It's like she ends up with a standard order pistol, like in terms of design because of her doubt in her ability. But realistically speaking, in the Arknights universe, guns are very hard to get your hands on, and like she like outright tells people like how she bought hers and stuff, and it's like you don't if you're not a Laterano, you do not buy gun. That's not how this works, right? Um, and even if you do buy gun, if you're not a Laterano, you don't use gun. Um,
With a long sleeve jacket.
the anime goes into it a little bit how like the um like Skull Shatter has like a grenade launcher. It's basically like a t-shirt tube, and then they detonate the shells themselves with their arts. Um, and that's a grenade launcher. Like they don't really like go into a lot of detail, but like the black steel like guns, like they're like mentioned in the story that like the like spark that like fires the holster of the gun, like that's the like really makes the projectile, like that's arts. Like they're doing that with arts. It's not like a manufactured like human gun, right? Um, so yeah, it's definitely
Second, making either that
an
or a shorter,
interesting
more
point.
halfling decision. She also has only one knee pad for some reason, and her headset looks like it has some sort of speaker going to her actual ear.
There a There I point out like I just don't like the jacket with shorts combination. Something that reoccurs.
Most characters in their E2
There are some characters that it definitely works for, which again we will get to. But
have some badass skill usage or a cool pose. Jessica's using her second skill, though, taking cover and emitting a smoke screen to hide herself from the enemy. In a way, it's fitting. A character who lacks confidence is less likely to be grandstanding and more likely to be hiding to get an advantage. She also
I
tries
think
her
that's
combat
true.
boots out for sneakers, though. Another taking the outfit makes a little less sense, Bugs.
Which I stand by. Like she had perfectly good boots on before. Why is she all of a sudden wearing sneakers?
It's a great representation of her skills and personality, but her outfit is a bit mismatched and confusing if you.
Um, so Jessica's short. Um, which I will stand by the grade. But Jessica's short does bring up two things that I do want to talk about. The first is I mentioned it earlier that I would come back to the knee pad subject. Um, and there's like a design trope where you know, if you're looking to fill space in a design, you'll give, you know, the design like belts or a knee pad or like, you know, like some like just something to like throw on there to like catch your eye that so that it doesn't feel like empty space, right? And it's basically a way that like, you know, people like throw things on outfits to make them seem more complicated when they're really not. Like there's just like a completely unnecessary like design feature that's just taking up space. Um and this is like not that, but that at the same time. Because the thing is Jessica's knee pad very much has a use. I'm well aware that it very much has a use. Like if she's a gunman, right? Like she has a pistol and she's you know trained to use it to shoot. Obviously, you know the knee pad is so that she can take a knee to steady her aim to be able to you know like aim the gun and shoot, right? Like that much is obvious. My point was is that she's only wearing one, and between her sprite, which again I actually should have fetched, but I made this short on a little bit of a time crunch. But between her sprite and her art poses and like like everything we see out of Jessica, like even in Holy Night Light, right? She doesn't use it. Like she's like like sitting off to the side behind a car, right? And that's in the animation, which we'll get more of Jessica in the actual anime, which maybe they'll make use of it. Um, but like my point is that like we never actually see her in that position, so it makes the knee pad feel like less of an important accessory. And if she was really like using it for that purpose, sure, everyone has their preferred stance, their preferred leg to go down to, but like in an actual combat situation, why would she not be wearing one on the other leg? What if she needs to peek around to the other corner, right? Like how she was doing in Holy Night Light, where she was peeking around to the other side of the car. Um, it's like some people were like, "Oh, but another knee pad would hamper her mobility." It's like, how much would a knee pad really hamper your mobility? If you have the one, you might as well already go for the two. There are other operators that already have the two knee pads. Why does she only have one? Like, it's just like there's just a disconnect between like, yes, this is the obvious clear purpose, and this purpose is never around and also does not justify like the situational usage of that particular article, so it feels like it's a placeholder. um and that's kind of like more of what I mean to say there, where it's like it's like it as a whole, like, yes, I'm aware that the purpose of the knee pad is to be able to go down on one knee and like take shots, but like it doesn't execute that way, so it kind of feels like an unnecessary piece of design that could have just been made better by just adding another. You know, it's like, I don't know, like if you're gonna cook a fish, you don't cook half the fish, right? You don't only cook it on one side, that kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, the second thing is I also harp on about uh, Jessica is the first operator who is wearing headphones. And boy, does this go crazy. Okay, so yeah, a lot of characters in Arknights have 4 ears. They have like the double sets of ears. Um, that's like a fact. I know Passenger does. I know like because there's like one official art where he does. There's a few characters in the anime that show their ears, notably Amiya. Because actually before that one shot in the anime where she shows her ears, you're not aware of whether or not she has two pairs, one pair of ears or two pairs of ears. Um, but there is a shot in the anime where that shows Amiya's human ears. Um, but generally speaking, um, like not every character does. Um, or not every character, you know, is portrayed in such a way that they like show their ears, right? And that is a specific design technique. A lot of people like called me out for this and was like, it was like, yeah, but like the Arknights characters have 4 ears, and it's like, okay, well, first off, not all of them do. Uh, but second, in a universe where I think the decision that it's kind of mismatched is a decision that hurts the universe thematically. Which is why I think it's bad design. I don't like if you say that your characters just, they have 4 years, whatever. Fine. That's just okay. You can make your designs like that. But then, like, in that case, don't be afraid to show the ears in designs. Whereas if they only have the 2 ears, that gives like artists the ability to like make equipment and things that would like be relevant to characters that only have 2 ears, like special headpieces to actually fit their ears, right? And um like there's a particular instance of like there's I think it's like there's a skin where there's like a chair that has a hole in it specifically for the character's tail, right? And it's like, and I don't remember who it is, but I know it exists, and it's like, hey, that's really interesting, like world design, right? As opposed to character design. Um, and the thing about like the way that Arknights' approach has become wishy-washy is, yeah, some characters who do have 4 ears just like have like headphones or something, but um, the thing is when you're creating animal girl characters or animal person characters, like monster girls, monster people, whatever, like if you're doing that, a lot of the time they won't have like human ears, right? Like if you have like bunny ears up here, whatever, then like obviously like they don't they don't have human ears. But the thing is in terms of design, uh, humans are like programmed to recognize human, right? So if something is all of a sudden strikingly not human, that hurts our perception of them as human. Um, so for instance, if a monster person character has ears up here, but not ears here, and you can see that, your brain goes, whoa, that's weird. And then that's not like a personal thing. Like, that's just something that the brain does, right? And if you look at, like, a majority of the characters in Arknights, and I had some people arguing that, like, it's not something that Arknights does, but it very much is. If you look at a majority of the characters in Arknights, which, here, let me grab my other tab here. Like, I can scroll through. You look at Amiya, Sora, Texas, Franca, like freaking Siege, Zima, Shiryuki, like literally like any of these characters, not counting obviously the characters who are like demons who already have like pointed ears or something like that, right? Cruz, Fang, right? Like look at all of these characters, and do you notice something about all of their art? None of them, even if they're shown at an angle, show their ears, right? Like they have hair covering it. They have like bangs, or let me see if I can find an example of maybe a character that has like headgear. Actually, Shiryuki's a character design that particular angle, like she probably doesn't have human ears, right? Um, but like, let me close these tabs. Um, I mean, okay, like Shining has a hood. Spectre has her hood, but she also has hair. Um, so like, that's a little bit of a weaker thing, right? So it's like for the characters who obviously have 4 sets of ears, like Neural or Jessica, who are like wearing headphones over their human ears. First off, that's also a way to hide the human ears. But second, like, like it's like they're like there's a pretty good example of Vulcan. Like she has horns, not ears, but she's still wearing a hood to cover where her ears are. until she takes it off, and then you can actually see her ear there. But like, there's gotta be at least some character who has their like ear space. Oh, Shaw. Shaw is a perfect example. Shaw is wearing a big firefighter helmet, right? Big firefighter helmet. You can't see the ears. The point of doing that, the whole point of doing that, is to prevent you from getting that like uncanny feeling from seeing a character who has animal ears but not human ears. The whole point of that is to do that, right? So when you have this universe where it's like kind of vaguely mixed on whether or not they do, but then a majority of your characters specifically use a design technique to make characters look more human, like without showing the ears, to then have the small minority of characters be like, oh yeah, definitely human ears, we're wearing headphones over them. Like yeah, I understand, like in universe, like canonically, like the characters have human ears. Like a majority of them have 4 sets even, right? Amiya, the main character, does. But the fact that you're purposefully designing characters not to, then in that case strikes me as even weirder, right? It's just such a strange backwards design choice that I think they should have somehow corrected the characters that weren't like there are so many less characters that actually show their human ears, that they could have actually just corrected those couple of characters. They could have corrected Jessica, Nerl, and Frostleaf, right? And like just given them like a slightly different like headpiece, and and then they could have just gone and said like, oh yeah, no, like the characters in our universe only have the one set of ears, right? And it's like they absolutely could have done that, but they didn't want to, which um is a decision that they apparently, according to what I've been told, it's a decision that they made in order to give their artists freedom, since they do outsource a lot of the character art. Which like, yeah, okay, that's fair. But at the same time, it's also a decision I don't personally agree with, because I think it would be more interesting to let artists flex a little bit and like actually like help the world building by like, you know, giving them things that would make sense in a universe of animal people, where you'd have to, yeah, like animal people would have to have custom headpieces to fit different ears, right? Like, I think that'd be more interesting to see. Um, and granted, that's just not the way that it went. And there was also like the mix of like characters like the Sarkaz, where their human ears, they're just pointed, right? And other human like characters, in those cases, are like the Sancta, who are humans, except they have halos, right? So like, it's like obviously there would have to be a mix of those kinds of things. But the argument that I'm getting at here is that the fact that you have these select few characters that are in the minority, that like are like have pieces of technology specifically designed for human ears, just takes away from like the decision of so many of the designs to hide them. Because like if that were the case, why are so many of the designs hiding them at all? Like, why is Amiya most of the time portrayed without showing her human ears, if like the anime has shown she has them, right? Like she freaking has them. So why not just show them? Like, because it's a design technique that's employed to negate the absence of the ear. So if the ear is there, then who freaking cares? Are you just trying not to like tick off like weird monster person stands like me? Because if that's the case, you've done the complete opposite. Like, I'm ticked off because you've done it the other way, right? It's just such a it's such a strange design choice. And that's why it ticks like off of my like design meter, and I will keep repeating it in all of the shorts that it should in all of the characters it shows up in, because it's just such a strange choice to me. So like, yeah, like I will keep mentioning it, and I had to rant about that because a lot of people yell at me every short I make that has it. They yelled at me in the Jessica short, they yelled at me in the Frostleaf short. And I'm like, no, like you need to understand, like this is a design concept that is repeatedly like fucked with in the Arknights universe, and I'm fucking mad about it. So yeah. Moving on. Then we have Earth Spirit, who yeah, I basically conclude is like kind of has like, okay, the bones are like haha geology, but like her weapon doesn't make sense. Her art doesn't really make sense. Her power doesn't really make sense. It's kind of like I don't. She's kind of mid. So yeah, see it is. Yeah. And then
this week we have the 4-star ranged guard Frostleaf.
Frostleaf
is a Volt.
So again, like I love Frostleaf. I'm on record. There's a clip on my Twitch channel that it's clipped there. I was gonna post it to YouTube, but I forgot, and then I procrastinated, and I just still haven't done it. Maybe after this short goes live, I'll post it just so that you people have a frame of reference. All you subscribers, I should find a name to call you guys, something like the pond or something like that. Because ducks. Just something. Because people is kind of it feels derogatory. It's not meant to be, but it kind of feels that way. But yeah, no, like I love Frostleaf's design. I love her aesthetic. Like this is like 100% like my style of character, and I said at 500 subs, I would absolutely cosplay her. Like just for like a stream. Like I would 100% cosplay her for a stream. So at 500 subs, Twitch subs, not YouTube subs. I would need to be making the money in order to fund the cosplay. This is what I'm saying. A
lot of people
but
saying this character needs an alt up, but Frostleaf is the top of my list for that. Or at least they could update her S2 to cold so she could be somewhat useful.
And yeah, that's a pain point. She's just a bad operator. But I love her design so much. I really want to give her an A+, but with the headphone thing to note, she's an A, right? Because that's the only thing about her design that is like not like just like perfect, right? It's this stupid freaking headphone thing, which I'm not gonna rant about again.
This week we have the 4-star hooker, puller, Rope. Rope is a cat burglar, even though she's a tortoise.
That's a good joke. I stand by that one.
Black jacket adorned with some tactical same, and while
but yeah, I feel like Rope is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think there is anything I need to talk about with Rope. I don't even think there's any like comments that like are like super stand out. Like it's just yeah. It's just like she's yep. She's Rope. Not a lot of people use Rope though, because Cliffheart and Cliffheart's skin were like free, like permanently, I think. So like you don't really get a whole lot of Rope, and then Gladia comes out, and she's also a free operator if you complete the Undertides event. So it's just like, why would anyone ever use Rope? It's like it's kind of sad because she actually does have a really good design. But yeah,
This week we have the 4-star arts guard Moose. She pronounces it mouse in the Japanese VO, but I'm certain
that's something I got contested on. I definitely like okay, it's 100% like a language thing. Because like I say here that I'm certain it's due to a language difference. When I was scripting this episode, that line was a lot longer. Actually, I had to cut it down in order to fit the shorts format. But OU in Japanese is pronounced oh, right? Like there's like not really like a difference in pronunciation. Like it's not an ooh sound. Like it kind of just elongates the o. Like it goes kind of down a step, but it does just kind of like elongate the o, right? And make a bit more of an ow kind of sound rather than like you know or you know a moo. Like like so I feel like when the actress was reading it, like that inflection came through in her reading, and it's something that I very much hear in her VO. That she says like if it sounds to me like she says mouse toimas, right? Um, which like it's like people are like, no, she pronounces it moose, but I don't know. Like it's definitely the way I hear it, but it's not really the point. Um, because again, I say as much here. Like I'm like, yeah, this is 100% a language difference thing. The language difference being that the pronunciation in Japanese is different. Like if you look at the Chinese, if you look at the English, she says moose. Like like it's not like like a translation thing or anything. Like it's literally just the pronunciation, right? So like yeah, like it's obviously not like
that's due to
something like that, but I use it as a way to set up uh a really stupid joke that I don't think a lot of people took as a joke.
based on an echo mod.
But yeah, like that's true. Like because of me hearing the voice line mouse all the time, I do screw up and say mouse. Like that's it's because that's what I hear. Um, but yeah, no, like I mean, officially it is Moose. Her operator name is Moose.
Courier called into question is not of the yokai. Or maybe she actually is a master deceiver explaining the mispronunciation and the whole hand mutations thing is a
That's the joke. Um, if I recall, actually, when I was editing the short, I wanted to put on screen like red text that just says "This is a joke," because I was afraid of people misinterpreting it. Um, because like I don't think they'd ever do that with Moose's character. Like it's like that is very much a joke. I'm like it would be really funny though if she just like was like, ha, I was tricking you all along because I am a Nekomata, right? Like it would be funny. Um, but it's like it's like not something that I'm like actually trying to like poke at like as being a possibility. It's a like my tone is supposed to be like a lot more sarcastic.
not of the yokai.
And then there you go, it's a
Mouse
gauntlet,
is one of the few
right?
live
And then I
shows
go
where
back into
Moose
like
really
talking to
doesn't change
about the
much,
design.
them in action. We do get to see the kitties though.
But yeah, so that's a joke I feel like kind of missed. I don't think my sarcasm inflection was good enough. Um, but I think I need to work a little bit harder on sarcasm when I'm talking in like my low range for the short, right? Because it's a little bit hard to kind of get off the well she could be like like it's definitely rather than like if I'm in my normal speaking voice I can sit here and I can tell you with a straight face that Mouse is actually a double agent and she's gonna come kill us all, right? Like like it's I don't know. I feel like it's you know, like there's definitely an inflection to that joke that didn't quite come through, and I was considering, you know, saying so in the editing of the short, but I decided that doing that would also ruin the joke, which I have now done by sitting here and explaining it. But
Take it off in her E2 art.
a lot of people cited that as a positive, which fair. That's actually a fair interpretation. Um, you know, you know, like I say it feels like there's a lot of wasted potential because I would have
I'd rather see Arknights' unique take on one.
liked to see something a bit more unique. I do like the tiny hat. Um, that this cat clearly knocked off of her head. uh, but yeah, no, like it's I don't know. Like the thing is I like I say, I like the fact that a character like Moose, who's like super shy and like, you know, like super timid, like I like the fact that they wouldn't be depicted in combat in their E2 art. I think that's actually really fitting. I just wish that her E2 art was any different whatsoever. Because this and this, that's a cat. Um but they have like the almost exact same vibe. It's oh, I'm a shy girl and oh, I have a cat, right? Like she's wearing the same dress. She's you know, like in the same like general place. Like she's, you know, doesn't have anything dynamic happening except for whatever's going on with the cats. Also, shout outs to the guy who's like, this cat is very lucky. Um, down here somewhere. It's like, all right, come on, bud. Um, I don't see it anymore. It's down there though. I'm not gonna sit here and try and read through all the comments. I do enough of that when I'm actually responding to them and liking them and stuff. I do read every comment, damn it. But yeah, it's just Mouse's design just kind of doesn't hit for me. So, yeah, I feel like they could have at least done something with it, right? It feels like they didn't do enough, or like anything at all, really. And that's really like what it comes down to is like, especially with like, you know, you see the claw in the E1 art, and she talks about how she's got like this mutation and stuff, and you see this and you're like, oh, okay, I fully understand that's the mutation, right? Because her other hand's normal. And then you get to her E2 art and it's they're gauntlets. She's got two of them, even though she only ever uses the one in game, but she's got two of them. They're gauntlets. Her mutation is like maybe that little bit of rock on her wrist, which it isn't. According to her lore, like it is actually like if she's not wearing the bracelet and this part of her oropathy acts up, her hand actually does mutate somehow. We don't know how. Like, but it's in her lore. It does happen. Um, but like, like, it's never shown. It's disappointing. It's disappointing.
This week we have a 4-star duelist card, Matoimaru.
Matoimaru is one of the characters that I went into thinking that her design was kind of mid. And then I started like actually looking into the design. I was like, wait, her design is like fucking cracked. Like holy shit. Like
Furry 2 art gives me Fire Emblem. Blob.
but yeah, Matoimaru's design is absolutely freaking cracked. There's like so much into it about uh like Japanese like noble women practicing naginata jutsu, and like how her outfit is like a combination of like the modern Arknights style and like an actual like practitioner's like gi and is set and stuff. It's like it's actually like so much went into it, and like how she's like is like the Ushioni. Some people were like, I don't think she's an Ushioni. She's what's the which I'd say as much in the description. Hold on. Gyuki. right? They're the same thing. Like, Yuki is an Ushioni. Thank you. I know. I looked it up. But yeah, like there's actually so much about Matoimaru's design that's like really cool. But I will say, I caught a bunch of flack for saying that one of the things that struck me as off about her design, aside from her posing being kind of not dynamic enough, was that she looks very calm. And that was kind of thrown back at me with it's she turns into a different person in battle, but she actually specifically states that as that different person, that she's quiet and she just goes murdery, and she like is entirely focused on like her mission at that point. um and like that was pointed out to me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's actually a fault in the way I wrote the short. And realistically, as much as it felt off when I was looking through the character for the character design, that having been brought to my attention, I'd say actually probably elevates it further. I do still think her art does give me Fire Emblem Awakening box art vibes, which is a little bit of a weird feel. But yeah, that being the case, I think Matoimaru is one of those designs that I could probably move up. I don't think she's A minus. I think she probably is A, maybe even A plus. Like, she's definitely on the fringe here. And I think I'm gonna take the points off for her posing. I think I'll sit her on A flat. But that's there you go. There's an update. I think I can correct that little bit of the my design reviews, because that's part of the reason I'm doing this, right? Then we have Scavenger, who unlike Matoimaru, I think basically stays the same, because she's a lesbian who occasionally likes to eat food. That's it. That's the whole character. So yeah, and not a whole lot of it comes across. But yeah, it's like a lot of people were like questioning my use of the word assassin for Scavenger, as like my point here was the joke of her character is that she's an assassin in the sense that she's a hitman, but she's the kind of hitman who will go there and get the job done regardless of how. Like, right? She like carries a big weapon. She's just gonna kill everything that gets in her way. She doesn't freaking care about it, right? And that's like the joke of the character, rather than uh be actually being like a stealth operative, or anything like that. And people were like, well, okay, but like, of course she's not like, like people, said things like, well, it's not covert. It's not. I don't mean to pick this person out, but like they like kind of tried to like be like, well, yeah, I mean, like it's not stated that it's something that like is what you think of as typical assassin behavior. And I'm like, yes, that is the joke. But it's the reason that it affects her score the way it does is because it's not a good one. And also mostly because her character itself doesn't like fit. Like like I look at her E1 art and I'm just like what even is this? And her E2 art is better. As a matter of fact, when I was writing the video, I actually, with her E2 art, I was like, with her E2 art and how like pretty good it is. If like this was like if she was a 3-star operator and this was the only art we had, I'd be like, yeah, Scavenger's design is pretty freaking great, right? But it's like everyone's first perception of the character is this garbage. It's so freaking bad. It's one of the reasons that I don't even have Scavenger E2'd, right? Like for a while, until I missed 3 of them in a row, I was like kind of vaguely thinking of becoming a Vanguard Knights player. Because I was like, this is a hilarious meme, and Beanstalk just came out, and I would totally do that. You just play the game with Vanguards, right? It was like something that I kind of wanted to do, so I put Scavenger on like my list to E2, and part of the reason she never got there is because her fucking art was so, like, her E1 art was just so bad and unappealing. But her E2 art's actually like not bad. So I was thinking of like making it to, to upgrade her grade because of the E2 art, but like through writing the script and like going through like the short and everything, like I came to the conclusion it's like, okay, but if the only good part of the character design is the part that's behind the giant resource wall, it's probably not worth it. Like, and the fact that there's like still enough of a disconnect between her character and like this here, because even this here, this is, oh, she's I see backpack, I see a coat, she's schoolgirl with large weapon. And then like you look and it's like, okay, she's like got a couple of swords here for like a little bit more like useful combat. She's probably like not actually, like these are probably like a backpack of supplies, but like, and I say that like I really really like the posing of this and how the backpack like is floating off of her back because of the force she's putting into her step. Like this art is fantastic. Like do not doubt me on that. Like this art is great. But it's just she's held back so goddamn much by this monstrosity that I don't think she deserves above a C, right? And it's like that was my limiting thing is like I don't like she like I her E2 art makes me want to put her up here, right? Like her E2 art alone. But for her actual character and the E1 art and taking all of what she is together as a whole, it's just I can't do it. Like she doesn't reach B range. I'm sorry, she doesn't.
This week we have a
All right,
4-star
Doberman.
way, exposing her back, giving her a vulnerability that doesn't suit her.
That one got some bite back as well. In the comments, it's just like, well, she's pointing her back that way because to you specifically because you're a person that she trusts to have her back. Which, like, yeah, okay, that's a fair interpretation of it, but it doesn't make for good character design. Which, like, especially like when every other character in the game is very much forward facing. Yeah, it's like, sure, like if that's the way you want to interpret it, go for it. Like, art is subjective. But frankly, I do not think it works at all.
It doesn't look like a serious military character in action. It looks like a high school girl with a jump rope that wants to show off her ass.
And somebody else said something along the lines of like, wow, you call this sexualization? Which, you look at this art, and
that's very much the opposite of what it should be. Even if I were to
let me zoom it out real quick.
She's a military dom with a whip.
Look at where this character is. Look at her pose. I go over. I specify the pose. She looks like a high school girl, right? With a jump rope, because she is. She's holding the rope like this below her, and she's got a leg up for seemingly no reason. And then look at the circle of focus, right? Where does the circle of focus center? Because it's not up here where the power of the swing of her arms would be. It's not down here in like the step or the focal point of like, hey, yeah, you're like she wants to always have the high angle on you because she's a woman of power. It's right here, right where the wrinkle of her pants is, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, it's not as blatant as like somebody drawing a character shirtless like Estelle, but it still like is sexualization. Um, and with that in mind,
Look at her character. She's a military dom with a whip. There are so many ways to make that hot, and this is not it.
there are so many ways to make that hot, and this is not it. Um, and so the joke here, the little fade in that is again intentionally a little bit hard to see. But I literally Google searched military dom with whip, and and to like find an image for a character to kind of put here, and it's very faded, and I can see why most people don't see it, because the blue of Doberman's E2 art here does kind of make it fade in, but it's an older woman in a military uniform shot from a low angle with a whip in what I assume is a hentai. Because it looks like one. It's not the prison school lady. It's something else. It's an image I found on Google. But like very much so. It's like, clearly that is how you make that hot, right? Like, and it was what I found as a better example of what Doberman's character is trying to get at here, or at least what it seems to be getting at with this art.
With how good the base art is, it really is a shame how much of a disappointment her post-promotion is. Promoting Instructor Guard should be disappointment enough. Thanks for watching, Gooby.
Another instance of me not having the time to fit in my full end spiel. Lots of that going around these days, but yeah, it's I don't know. It's just like I said, it's really disappointing. Like, her base art is really freaking good. But like the E2 art just like really falters. Kind of what's the turn of phrase? The one about throwing the ball away at the finish line or something like that. I don't freaking sports. Something like that. But yeah, it's just severely disappointing.
This week we have a 4-star medic defender Gummy. Gummy is an Ursus.
And this is when I finally did the poll on like, because I was getting complaints about my subtitle placement again. Because trust me, you've seen them. I'm going through this video. You've seen them move from here to here to here to here. It's like all over the place. I can't find a place that works. Like, I just can't. Right now, up on top is like the best case, because in the shorts format, generally speaking, there's like a button that is here if you're touching your screen, and there's a button that is here if you're touching the screen. But if you're not touching the screen, they fade off. So it's the best place for the subtitles as they are. And if you're one of those people who apparently has an iPhone and or some archaic phone where your hotbar is permanently there, and therefore cuts into the video, I'm sorry. Like, honestly, at this point, I'm just tired of moving them. And I did a poll, like straight up, like on my channel, somewhere. It'd be a pain in the ass to find right now. Because I mean, like, I very easily could. But there's like straight up a poll. It's got like 200 votes or something on it, where like 175 people were like, "Yeah, just move them to the top." So I moved them to the top. I'm sorry. Like, it's the best place I can put them for now, man. And they're probably gonna stay there for the foreseeable future. Because I do think it works well in the context of the videos. Having like using this black space as where the subtitles go, and then the rest of the video is the video, because you can't use the bottom space because that's where all of the shorts buttons go, and you can't do down here because it's certain zoom levels. The title will cut into the video for some reason, and on certain phones, the buttons are over here, so you can't do like anything like here either. It's like so hard to subtitle shorts to not just put the subtitles in the middle of the screen. I don't want them in the middle of the screen. That's where the main focal point of the video is. The subtitles are supposed to be a little bit out of the way. Don't get me started on the thumbnails again. Swear to God, YouTube. Man, I got a lot of pent up anger there.
Design.
There you go, Gummy is an A. A well deserved A, mind you. I don't really want to get too far into it because again, I think the video actually explains it really well. So you know, go watch the video. This one have a joke?
Well, next time, can you smell what the rock is cooking?
Yeah, that one has a joke. That one has a joke, alright. I crack myself up. Which is the important part, right? So if you're not funny to yourself, you're not going to be funny to everyone else.
Deepcolor is hard to evaluate because it feels like Hypergriff forgot about her.
Now, I'm well aware that for Dusk, it's not actually a casting method, and I have been provided with information on Deepcolor's upcoming freaking Paradox, or no, Paradox Sim is the level. The other one, the little character story, where it is actually apparently touched on that she is, in fact,
non-relevant lines of dialogue. I'd love to be wrong and Deepcolor be some
a Seaborn variant. She is. I was right. Woohoo! But yeah, she is apparently actually Seaborn. But she's like a piece of it that, you know, like retains her humanity, so she like breaks off from like the hive mind or whatever. And that brings me to like the idea that her arts, like her painting in the air, is actually probably like the Seaborn attempting to replicate the powers of a Farinmutt like Dusk, right? Whereas, like, you know, because the Farinmutt powers, like Nyan's ability to generate weapons or Dusk's ability to like trap someone's senses in a painting, like those things are specifically described and written down as not arts. They're like inherent powers to like the Farinmutts. So with that interpretation, Deepcolor's arts actually probably are like a Seaborn attempt to mimic that, which is actually kind of really cool. But
unique Seaborn variant in the future.
Same logic for Scavenger. That's locked behind actually E2ing Deepcolor. And like raising her level to like E2 like 40 or something, whatever it is for 4 stars. Which like nobody's gonna read that. Nobody's gonna know that. Nobody's gonna get that insight to her character. So I really like the art flip here, but it doesn't give you anything. You still only get those 2 lines of dialogue. They don't update the dialogue. She needs an alt up. So yeah. So I'm not changing the grade based on that information. However, now you also have that information. So yeah, there you go.
This week we have a 4-star pusher specialist, Shaw. Shaw is a character known for talking as fast as I do in my wordier shorts like this one. According to her lore, it's a product of her social anxiety as she thinks about what she's going to say.
I do talk faster in this one than a lot of my other ones even recently.
So it would be hard to confuse her without they were afraid people wouldn't like a female character that didn't show skin. It's really out of place. In her E2 art, Shaw is seen with squirrel assistance closer.
And that's a point I bring up because like I mentioned, it seems like a lot of the early Arknights character designs were trying to lean a little bit more into grabbing people with a bit of fan service rather than sticking to characters who are actually like designed for the Arknights universe, because I mean, I assume they didn't have a super coherent feel on what the Arknights universe even was at that point, because you know, early game development. That's kind of like, you know, like that's probably pretty common. Like if you look at, you know, the old League of Legends champions and the new League of Legends champions, like, you know, there's a pretty big difference, and I'm not just talking about how all the new ones are broken. But like, you know, the point is in any character-based game, League of Legends is the easy one because it's massive and well-known and large. Two of those words mean the same thing. But yeah, like it's an easy comparison because it's really big, well-known character-based game. So you know, and so it's just like a fact for any like character-based game that like at the beginning you're kind of gonna be bumping around a little trying to feel out what you're doing, and in a genre like gacha where, you know, generally speaking, you know, the female characters bring you a majority of your audience. uh you know, it's understandable that they would want their female characters to have fan service. But I think that that's a bad design decision, especially in terms of the Arknights universe and for Shaw's character, who again is very entirely serious about her job. Why is she not wearing pants? Like she should absolutely be wearing pants. I don't care that she's a female character. She should wear fireproof pants. She's a firefighter. She's literally the chief. Her whole lore is about how she freaking overthrew like the previous head of the fire department with like strongly worded essays about how fire safety needs to be preached more in schools and shit in Lugman in order to prevent fires before they happen. It's literally the Smokey the Bear of this universe. Except with strongly worded letters and is a squirrel instead of a bear. But, you know, like, yeah. Definitely just something that completely doesn't make sense.
Instead of the axe. This gives visual representation of both tools she uses as weapons as an operator. The stripes on her outfit also change from yellow to white, but that seems to be prevent them from.
That's a large positive, by the way. The fact that she actually gets art for both weapons that she ends up using, but her axe for her normal attacks and the hose for her pushes. Like, it's actually really good in terms of the her design. But yeah, like I said, it's a really good design. It's just baffling that she's not wearing pants. And again, I think that's a product of the early design decisions that you make in producing a new gacha game. And that's just how it is. But, you know, you'll see later down the line there are a lot more characters who, if they're gonna be sexualized, they're gonna be sexualized, and if they're not, then they won't. So yeah, it's they get better at it. Is what I'm saying.
The 4-star fast redeploy specialist Gravel. She's a Zalic, a rodent, and of course she's notorious for being ridiculously flirty with the doctor. As a knight of Kazimiash and as the go-to defensive hot drop operator, it's nice to see she has a solid.
It's kind of ironic that I lose the thumbnails because actually, I'd say the Shaw short probably marks a point in me making these where I also like. I feel like I'm putting more effort into them. Which also might just be because it's taking me 2 weeks to make them instead of 1 because lots of reasons. But still, like, you know, I feel like I'm putting more effort into the shorts with like
Chestplate brandishing
character
her rifle.
models and
She's
sound
no label
effects and
assassin too, though, so whether
other
or not she's
things.
light on the
So,
hunt, she's got a Rhodes Island style jacket on top of it, and she is one
you
of
know,
those operators.
there's
Who can
probably
tell
still
if
going to
she's
be
wearing
one or
bottoms
two
or
that,
not. For flirty
you know,
personality,
I
though, it's
kind of
fine.
don't
For armor
put
and shields
that
are ranged
like
swords, though,
amazing
not
amount of stuff
magnets, despite
into.
how she stabs with them in game, and in her E2 art, we see her in motion
But
using them Tengen style, which is a shame we don't see in game. She manifests a swarm as she moves, but counter to this voice line,
My rats.
they don't look like rats, and the word she uses is actually companion, so it's safe to say that's a mistranslation.
and that's like I obviously use the English voice in order to like make it like audible. Um, but yeah, no, she is actually, according to my comment section, a prairie dog, which is related to a marmot. So it wasn't like
Something more like a marmot
entirely wrong,
it's a little
but
unfair to hold translation inconsistencies
yeah.
design, but it does mess with the impression of the character if you don't know she's not a rat.
And this is like another place where I'm like, yeah, it messes with the character design if there's a very clear miss. That's a
That aside,
bad
this is
place
a
to
fantastic
pause. I'm
character design.
sorry. Like you know, it's like that's you know, it is something that hurts the character design to have like a big misconception, even if it is like the mistake of the like the localizers, like it affects the design like more than I'd
Gravel is a quick
like
paced
it
road
to.
with her defensive playstyle in terms of output and poise, but I think I would have gone with a different road, something like a doormat.
Also, Gravel is a good example of good sexualization and character design. Uh, because she is incredibly flirty with you. She is supposed to be essentially like the dashing rogue. She's the one who like, you know, she's a knight, she's on screen, right? But she's a rogue. Like so she's like the sneaky assassin or whatever, but she's like deceptive and she wins over the hearts of the people by being like flirtatious and you know, like appealing. And you know, like that's like part of her character. Um and so in both of these arts where like actually less so her base art, um
And of course, she's
but
known
like,
for
you know, in her outfit design where which someone pointed out to me in the art book, like I mentioned that you like in either art you can't really see if she's wearing shorts. Someone someone said uh that in the art book she's not. It's just the one piece thing that she's wearing here below the jacket. She does not have bottoms. Um, so again, you know, a little bit sexualized. Uh, like, you know, in her outfit design, and then in her E2 art, like even like the posing, where, you know, like obviously like, you know, shot to be like, you know, like ass up so that she's, you know, in a position where like she's twisting a little like as she sees you as she's running by and whatever, but like, you know, the point of it is to like, you know, like this is a very, you know, it's a pretty sexy pose. Like her jacket's falling off, like, you know, it accentuates her curves very well. You know, like it's a very sexual pose. Or well, not sexual, but like, you know, like it is an example of a sexualization in the character design, but it's very fitting for Gravel because that flirtatiousness, that appeal is part of her character, right? Um, so it very much works in her favor rather than against her. Uh, so yeah, like it's actually used very well here.
That's just about everything about Gravel's design. Oh, the barcode? Yeah, that's from her past as a slave, which led her to single-handedly wipe the practice from her country, and definitely not for her cheaper, easier merch sales. Yep.
I didn't get the pause in before it switched. But yeah, so Gravel's design is pretty solid. And I think she stays right where I decided to put her. Which granted, just a pretty recent short, so I don't think too much has happened that would have changed my mind. And then we have the most recent short, Vigna.
Vigna's a sarcasm out of the ghoul.
See, I told you it'd come back. poker.
4-star poker. Vigna's a sarcasm, and out of the ghouls and demons they could be based off of, she's seemingly just a fiend, but maybe has.
I will continue that, by the way.
Her style is an interesting combination of twin-tailed schoolgirl and
the Ifrit voice lines.
schoolboy. This and her.
I really, really wish I could have found a picture of Smokey Brown that I actually could have reasonably cut out. This was like impossible. I tried, it didn't happen. But yeah, like that's still you get the idea, like how Vigna's outfit is kind of like derived from like that kind of style. And there I mentioned like a character like Vigna, like why shouldn't she have like an MP3 player on her person, or like, you know, in-ear headphones, like for like, you know, because she's like such an audiophile, and it's like it's weird that she doesn't have them.
That also makes her design feel a bit more focused on her attitude and combat abilities, which brings me to Vigna's unique weapon.
Especially since she's a character who does have almost human ears. So yeah. Also, somebody in the comments said this looks like a face. I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of does. So thanks for that. I also lean a little bit on the lore in this short, because I do make the double reference to the obelisk, and in that case Ifrit, as you can hear, I included her voice lines just to have her yelling about it. But yeah, it's because like the thing is with the sarcasm, there's so many different types of them. Like I really, really want to go into like what type of sarcasm they are and what it is like that they're doing. And with Vigna, it's like the tiny red horns, like I pointed out with like a little comparison to Power in the beginning there, where she does kind of just seem like, you know, a small fiend, right? Like or of like a small time demon, right? It doesn't really have like any like obvious connection to like any like particular named demons or anything like that. Ifrit. But like if you look at her art, it's like this is like, you know, big red bone demon covered in fire. There's got to be connected to the Diabolus, who big fire demons. No, like there's got to be something there, especially since I'm not super up on everything about the lore. But I was snooping about the wiki, and the Colombian military apparently does mess around a little bit with some Diabolus shards, even though they're like believed to be like a dead subrace. And it's like the Colombian military does have like the shards of them like in their employ or whatever. Like it was like there was like some like vaguely like, yeah, there could still be like connections to them lying around. And guess what? Vigna's from the Colombian military. So, you know, I just kind of throw two and two together.
The obelisk lineage. To nitpick though, it would look better if one of its bony hands was turned to match or counterbalance Vigna's.
And that's a point I also stand by. And I think, like, you know, she's got the one hand up, the one hand down. Why does the demon have both hands up? Like why is the demon both hands like this? It should have one either to match or to oppose Vigna to like balance out her like stance or whatever. It should be opposite her or matching her to help her like her how she's holding it. I think that would like really just elevate this art to be like perfect.
No wonder she's a fan favorite. Thanks for watching. Happy holidays.
But yeah, Destiny, happy holidays. That is all of them for now. So as you can see, like a good portion of the operators do fall into like the higher tiers, and like, you know, it's not like, yeah, I've seen a couple of comments that are like, I'm waiting to see like a character design he likes or whatever. Like, there are plenty. Like, you know, you consider like, if like I would consider, since it has the majority right now, B minus is probably my most mid tier, right? So if you consider B minus mid tier, then like B and above, like everything here, like these are great. These are good designs, right? Like, so these are designs that I've quote unquote liked. Um, so thanks for those comments, I guess, but they're there. Um, and I again, part of the reason I started this series was because I like Arknights character designs. I think they're really good. Like overall, right? And obviously, like this, you know, points to that a little bit. How, you know, most of the characters are on the top half of the tier list. The other thing is my grading system. I designed it kind of like a school grading system, partially because, you know, they say C's get degrees, right? There's a some good old motto uh, of the American schooling system, anyway. Uh, um, and like so, generally speaking, like anything that's above a C, like C or above, like, you know, in particular for like my grades of putting together, you know, this like these grades on these shorts, like anything above a C is passable. Like they're like decent designs. You know, it's where you get into the C minuses and the D's, which we have only have 4 operators, where it's like, yeah, okay, these designs need some work, right? Um, so like, you know, there you have it. Like just testament right there to Arknights has good character design as a broad statement. This is year one. Um, there's like a way to view it as it's uh organized, but I don't know how to do that. I'll figure it out for next year's probably. Um, but for now, I have been doing this for far too long. Because this was supposed to be a 2-hour video, and it's now 4. I'll have a little bit of editing to do, a little bit of rambling to cut, but that's gonna do it for me. So, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, you're crazy, especially if you're like not subscribed or something. Um, you're like, you know, you should do that. And you can see the rest of the shorts that as they come out and stuff too. That'd be helpful. Um, yeah, like, comment, do you know, stuff. I hope I maybe explained some stuff or responded to comments, uh, or just rambled in a way that you particularly liked. Um, so yeah, good luck and have fun in all of your games. And until next time, Gooby.